Queen takes h5.
Queen takes h5. Problem book mate. Find it. Find it.
There it is.
Find it.
There it is.
Find it. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it.
That makes me happy.
I love it. It makes me happy because not every day you get a position where all of a sudden those tactical patterns you've been working on since a wee youngin', right? Since a wee lad. You were a wee lad. Remember how I taught you in a chess camp one time? And then we had Sergey Karjakin, one of last year's semifinalists, finally get to his first round matchup today against the one, the only, the Polish fighter 3000, as he's now becoming known on Chess.com, Jan-Krzysztof Duda. With me, as always, Grandmaster Robert Hess. His mother just texted me privately and said, make sure you call him Bobby today. So I'm just making sure I'm doing what your mom asked me to do. Bobby, as we look at this matchup, tell me what you think.
You know, there's a big question mark next to Jan-Krzysztof Duda, a very, very talented player in classical chess, of course. He went +1 in Dortmund earlier this year. He became the Polish #1 player. Of course, we'll see him at the Olympiad. But Karjakin is a well-known commodity in the chess circles. He's been one of the top blitz players for a long time now. In fact, he's probably the most feared player after Magnus Carlsen, along there with MBL, Hikaru Nakamura. But I think Karjakin's proven himself time and time again, except... big exception was at the the St. Louis Blitz tournament where he underperformed for the first time in what feels like forever. But in this format, in the Speed Chess Championship, I mean, he's proven himself to be an absolute monster.
Yeah, he has. And even Hikaru Nakamura, who I think is considered by many to be the favorite, especially with Magnus Carlsen on the field this year, and probably considers himself the favorite, if Hikaru is honest. He said that he feels like in a matchup with Sergey, it's really a 50-50 shot. Of course, we're not here to talk about later matchups in this year's Speed Chess Championship. Right now, we're here to talk about the matchup against the Polish rising superstar. Very young. Tell us a little bit about Jan-Krzysztof Duda and why maybe this underdog has an outside fighter's chance here against the Russian Minister of Defense.
Well, absolutely. He's currently ranked 23rd in the world in classical chess, 2739. He recently leapfrogged his compatriot, Wojtaszek. So that's very impressive because Wojtaszek's been such a force in the chess circuit for a long time. And, well, Duda's very consistent as of late. You know, sometimes with young players, you see them go up to near 2750 and drop back down. That happened to Richard Rapport, but it's not happening to Duda as of yet. He performed +1 in Dortmund, a great performance. He has, in recent months, been playing quite a deal of chess. He played in the Chinese Super Tournament, finished an even score against a very strong field. So I've been very impressed by his level of consistency in this past year. And, he does do very well against lower rated competition. He does struggle a bit against players that are in the upper echelon, but then again, who doesn't? So Karjakin, who had a really big difficulties in St. Louis, both in the rapid and blitz portions, and then especially in the Singfield Cup, well, he has his work cut out for him today against a young and rising superstar of chess.
Well said. And let's remind everybody who, for some reason, may or may not be aware of the format of the Speed Chess Championship. You're looking at the most exciting event that happens in online chess, where we get all of these elite grandmasters to play in a bracket-style knockout tournament. The winner of each match obviously moves on to the next round. We have 3+ hours of chess with 90 minutes of 5-minute, 60 minutes of 3-minute, and then on to the last half an hour being 1 minute. One thing to remember is what they're playing for. Of course, the prizes increase with each round. All the matches is about 16,000 in prizes for the first round, but that gets bigger each round considering there are less players competing for each prize pool. And of course, there's always the option that fans throw some cash their way during each match for things they like to see. We're about to jump in here with Sergey Karjakin versus Jan-Krzysztof Duda. But remember, we have a lot of other matches throughout the year. All 16 of these phases, many of them have already played. A few of them have already been sent packing. But tomorrow is the big one. We have Anish Giri taking on Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. I think that many people had this date of September 7th circled on their calendar a long time ago. Today, there being the excitement that goes the other way, and the fact that we have a huge favorite to win the whole thing like Sergey Karjakin, and then a big underdog. We'll see what the young Polish man is capable of. But tomorrow, Robert, Giri versus Mamedyarov, I mean, it is anybody's coin flip. I cannot wait to see what happens there. Before the games start, while I have everyone's attention, I want to remind you that one of the most exciting events on Chess.com that involves all different levels of chess players will be starting very soon in September. The Season 2 of the Streamers Championship will get underway. And of course, we have even bigger prizes, more events, and all kinds of stuff. People like Grandmaster Robert Hess will be there. So that's all you need to know. And looks like our players are ready. Robert, I'm ready. The chat is ready. Shout out to Chess Bay, Sella Bethel, NM Butta, everyone I can see, Liquid Ed Product. We already have Nathan F314 with a sub. Just I'm pumped. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm definitely ready for the match. I'm just unsure what's about to happen. Really, I love that these two players are meeting up in the first round. I think that I see in the chat that a lot of people are very happy that Duda was invited and will be playing because, again, he's one of those players, 2740 FIDE, perhaps his blitz and rapid skills not up to his classical skills at the moment. I think his blitz rating just leaves him just outside top 50 in the world, but of course an incredible talent and one that, this could be good experience for him as he rises towards the tip of the absolute tippy top of chess. It will be good experience in playing Karjakin game after game in a 3-hour match.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, of course, we talk a lot about who the next world champion will be. Of course, we have a world championship match this year, which you and I will be covering every day here on Twitch, but more on that later. But, if you're talking about who the next generation of stars are, Jan-Krzysztof Duda hasn't been mentioned as much among some of the other names. If you talk about Wei Yi, there's... who else would I be thinking of that I feel like Jan-Krzysztof maybe hasn't been given as much love or his due of the fact that he's very, very young, super, super talented, and certainly someone who's on his way to the top, tippy top. So, all right, well, they're ready. I've been told the games are going to be starting here momentarily. We
there they are.
Once and for all have liftoff. Robert.
Yeah.
You look good today, buddy. You look like you've already gotten your exercise. So thanks for doing that.
Well, you know that I walked over 3 miles today, so you know that I'm trying to stay in shape to commentate in this game. We have a Sicilian in the first game, so how can we not be ready for an exciting battle? And Polish fighter, as you mentioned, I love that username. And G4 Karjakin. Whoa, Karjakin not as much of a rating differential as I would have expected, considering how strong Karjakin is. But then again, he's maybe not as frequent on the site. Here he goes, G4, G5, taking over that D5 square, Danny.
Yep.
I know you love playing Sicilians with both colors, don't you?
Absolutely. And this is one of the more challenging lines. And I was just about to say that one of the things you get, at least as far as the type of games that happen when you have this big underdog matchup, Robert, is I don't think that the Polish fighter 3000, Jan-Krzysztof, is going to be holding anything back, right? He knows he needs to play home cooking prep. He's going to really try to challenge Karjakin because that's his best chance. He wants to bring his best chess here. No secrets being kept.
Well, there might be some secrets because I see Gad Sinisko says Duda is playing from the Polish national team training camp where they're preparing for the Olympiad. That's what he thinks. So, maybe he can't reveal all that he's doing with the team, but we will see what he has in store in this game. And the knight d5 move, for some that may seem, well, that's strange. There's a knight on b6 that can now capture it. But as you see here, look at this pawn structure, 4 and 3 on the queen side for white, the A through D files. And what that means is white would love to play c4, c5, and start pushing forward. That said, the knight on b3, some see that as a good piece that just controls the position. For example, if you take on e5 and the knight takes on e5, then the knight can just go right to d4. But on the other hand, you really want to have that pawn on b4 with your knight on b3 so you can play c4, c5. And so Duda playing extremely quickly, clearly feels comfortable on the black side of the Sicilian, and it's a tough choice for Karjakin right now. He does take that pawn on e5, and what I was about to say was it frees up the d4 square for your pieces, but it also lets that knight gain access to the position. From d7, it was more of a defensive piece. Now it can be more aggressive. Ideas with bishop e4, queen d7 come to mind. I would start with queen d7 here. That way I can decide later, hey, do I want to put my bishop on h3, or do I want to play bishop g4, trading off those bishops, and that way maybe my bishop won't get into any trouble. And a third option, of course, is just putting that bishop back to the g6 square, where it's perfectly safe and sound and controls a good diagonal. And the white king, Danny, where's that going? Because if you castle queenside, rook c8 is the immediate idea that comes to mind.
Well, I think you have to anyway at some point, because at this juncture, I was just about to say, you're about to get overwhelmed having to guard both g5 and d5, but Sergey finds an aggressive way to do it, gaining a tempo on the bishop and then reinforcing the g-pawn. But I don't know. I guess I'm a little more skeptical of Black's position, maybe being biased that playing these types of English attacks many times. One of the things to notice is that White is worried about the c2 pawn, but if you can get castled and there's no immediate threats, where is Black's long-term pressure coming outside of White rushing things like h5? This move like knight d4 is strong, and if Black ever pushes the b pawn, then the c6 square becomes weak. I like knight d4 just from the perspective that it guards both c2 and has all these aggressive intentions in mind. But okay, the counterplay for Black is the pressure's on now. He's got to come up with something. Where's the next move? Is he trying to stop the attack with things like f6 at some point? Although now it's not possible because e6 is being spied, or is there something else for Black?
Well, this is a large reason why I like to move queen d7 earlier, because it protected that bishop on f5 and allowed you to avoid this idea with h4. I mean, h5 from Black, I guess he's hoping that if g takes h6 en passant, bishop takes h4 check, that's enough counterplay given the fact that your king is about to open up. If I'm White, do I play a move like knight f5? But then I think, well, knight f5, bishop f5, rook f5, g6, and Black is in time to defend the king side. That said, White does have the two bishops. That could be a long-term advantage. And b3, I think, is a very nice decision because why play knight f5? The bishop on g6 is not going anywhere. By playing b3, I stop your knight from ever coming to c4. I can play c4 myself. You don't want to play b5 as Black because then that's met by pawn a4, breaking open the queenside pawn structure and leaving a6 a weakness and, well, forever a target and probably just winning a pawn. So I think Black, things have started to go wrong for Black here, whereas after queen d7, I thought there was a little bit more flexibility. Mm-hmm. And here, queen d7, the queen can come to h3, but I think it's a little bit too little and a little bit too late.
Over under, those who bet under 10 minutes before we heard a car alarm outside Robert's window, they have now officially taken home that Vegas prop bet, and we move on.
Yeah, sometimes the ambulance got to go, and I got to give a...
Well, we would like to believe that wherever that ambulance is headed, it's more important than this chess match, so we'll forgive the sirens.
Absolutely. And, okay, so bishop d8, this is not what you want from the Black side. I mean, you have quite a passive setup, even though this bishop reroutes itself to b6, which I think is a good idea with the pawn on c2, being spied on knight f5, always a timely response here. And if we trade on e3, bishop takes e3, I can consider playing knight takes e3.
I think you do want to play knight takes e3 because I was about to say the one thing that could happen if Black took on e3 and then Black was able to trade on f5 and follow that by g6, you have this sort of good knight on e5 versus it's potentially not the best bishop on e2. So I think that Black is probably needing to go that route. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking for rook f6 followed by queen b6, just trying to get after that d6 pawn. So if I'm Black, I was about to say, throw in a move like rook c5 or queen c7. He plays rook c5, hitting d5 now. And if I play b4 as White, rook takes d5, I can't go c4, which would trap your rook under normal circumstances. But the fact of the matter is there's a move like rook c8 or pinning that pawn on c4. So king b2, now c4 is met by b5. So what about rook takes d5 here? Is that not a free pawn? So rook d5, maybe pawn c4, rook back to c5, and then rook d1 is the intention, hitting d6, threatening queen takes e5 if your rook 5 moves away. So, yeah, things have not gone precisely Karjakin's way. I thought he had a pretty nice position, but now it's counterplay clearly for Black. Although you do not play rook 5 to c6 here, as again that blunders the knight on e5. So
yeah, I agree. The way this has gone has made me feel better and better about Jan-Krzysztof's position. The knight, to me, a potentially better piece than the bishop here in the endgame, even though maybe normally that's not always the case. The fact that there's targets on the dark squares here and this knight is already centralized, people I think are often biased to the fact that in open center endgames or in endgames with pawns on both sides of the board, the bishop should be better. But if you have a centralized knight, that's almost never totally one-sided. And so looking at the way this game is going, you start to feel like Jan-Krzysztof is now in a position where things like b5 and even d5 are screaming to be played. Let's pry open the c file and get jiggy with it, right, Robert? I mean, what about a move like d5 or b5 here? I like them both.
Yeah, and d5 actually is a pretty nice looking move because a pawn takes. You look at the e file, so maybe there's rook c2 check, followed by we trade everything on c2. Then I have knight d7 hitting both the rook on f6 and the bishop on e2, and that should have given black quite an advantage.
Yeah, interesting. He went with b5 there, Robert, to back up the analysis. I mean, I think you were totally right that d5. I thought it was half a dozen one or the other, but I admit I forgot the pawn was hanging on d6, which of course the Minister of Defense did not. But let's look at this. If black had played d5, I think he was in total control here of where this game was going. Too late now, though.
And I'm a little concerned about black's position here, actually, because it seems, well, black is up a pawn. We just paused for a second, and black's up a pawn. But you cannot play pawn takes b3 because rook takes e5. And the important point about that is that after rook c2 check, the bishop on e2 was protected by the rook on e5, so you couldn't get away with that tactical sequence. Now black is coming after the h4 pawn, but is that pawn more valuable than the a6 pawn? The reason why I say no is that once this bishop gets on that long diagonal, you both stop the black pawn from queening, you cover the h1 square, and you can protect the a8 queening square at the same time. And this proves the dominance of bishop over knight. And so knight e3 check forces the minor pieces off the board. Knight e3 check, king takes c3, knight takes c4, pawn takes c4. The big problem for black, even material, but white's pawn is better. Quality pawns for white, there's a pass pawn there. Black has trouble creating a pass pawn himself. So he took on h4, but I think this is a really bad ending for black.
This has been quite the turnaround, honestly, from where that game was headed with black's opportunity to play d5 that Duda missed to where we're headed now, where suddenly what was a dead equal position on the clock is now a nearly 2-minute time advantage for Karjakin. In addition to everything you highlighted, the b pawn's going to be a passer even if the a pawn falls, and c3 is just not something that black can defend long term. In fact, I think white's just going to take it now.
Yeah, bishop d3 might even be a nice move to throw in here. The point is that for h4, I can take on f5. Oh, actually, I can't do that. I was trying to take on f5, play rook h6, but then black had rook h8. And no, that would have worked out for...
Yeah, I think he could have done. I don't think you're wrong about that. But I think it's almost picking between Flavor Flavs at this point, because I believe that Karjakin is on his way. And those who bet the first unnecessary pop culture reference from me would come in less than 15 minutes in. They win that prop bet. So there you go.
So knight e3 now. Knight e3 hit the bishop and threatened knight d5 check, but I guess a6 would have been played.
He has knight c2 check coming here as well, though. It's a little tricky.
That's true. But knight c2 check, there's king a4 with safety. So what's he doing here? He's allowing the queen to happen and saying maybe I can... Well, there are some opportunities for a sort of fortress-looking thing here. A7, king f6, a8, queen, maybe knight f5. But no, this is not...
I mean, it's highly unlikely, but it's a swindle worth trying because it is blitz. But in this situation, if the clocks were reversed and Karjakin had 4 seconds, maybe it works. But given that Duda's the one down on the clock, I doubt Sergey blows this.
Yep. So b4 here. I mean, you can just give up his bishop for the h-pawn and push your own b-pawn. The knight and rook are a bad duo in positions like this because the knight has trouble getting back towards the b-pawn, whereas a bishop is much better suited for reaching pieces that are farther away. It's just inherent to their piece movement. So,
yep. And now I think he can almost take the h-pawn and give up the bishop on f1. I was thinking there might be queen e7, and then the king moves and a queen to f8 check, picking up the knight on f1. But okay, maybe that was unnecessary, according to Sergey.
Yep.
I mean, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say you said unnecessary, but then I said, speaking of unnecessary, Tone Deaf says all Danny pop culture references are necessary. So.
Thank you. There you go. There you go. And wow, this is going to be a fun mate on h7. Jan-Krzysztof doesn't allow it, but the mate coming to h7 with the knight being pinned would have been our first OMG emote of the day. Mate did not happen, and instead Karjakin takes it home. But as the next game gets started, and we follow that here, just really, I'm going to back up this analysis board while I have the ability to do so and just go back to that position where d5 could have been played, Robert. And it was just really almost a +3 advantage, according to the engine for black, if he had played d5 instead of b5. You think that maybe the young Polish man just wasn't expecting to have that kind of chance? He might even be a little bit nervous at this point, given that he knows he's going up against one of the favorites. You buy in that theory? That's why he missed d5?
I really... Yeah, I would have to imagine he missed it rather than he just chose not to play it because it's such a strong-looking move, opening up the position even more. So I don't know if it's nerves. He's 20 years old.
Right.
There's nothing to be nervous about. He's incredibly strong, but I think it's just an oversight, and we'll see if he's able to rebound from it. I do not like the fact that we are seeing him Berlin, and the reason why the reason why I don't love it is not because I find the Berlin boring. Actually, quite to the contrary, I find the Berlin to be very interesting. There's all these nuances.
I'm so glad you said that. I feel like I thought I was alone. I also like the Berlin. You think that's why your mom knows that we're so compatible? You think that's it?
No.
Okay.
I think it's just ridiculous pop culture references.
Yeah.
We both like.
Okay.
And here, though, the reason why I'm not such a big fan of it is because if I think about people who play the Berlin all the time, Sergey Karjakin obviously comes to mind. He's playing in all these elite tournaments. The Berlin is a very popular opening at that level, and Karjakin has tremendous experience defending positions that some may not enjoy playing. And right now with black, I'm not seeing the issue here. You have double pawns, the main feature of the Berlin, these double C pawns. White has a 3-on-2 majority on the king side, but those pawns can't move. If you go G4, you always allow knight to go into the H4 square with check right now.
I admit that the last game happened so fast, and I was highlighting maybe Duda's missed opportunity with D5 that I didn't see it, but this looks like one of the better Berlins we've seen in a while. I mean, here, the things that black is supposed to have in terms of compensation for these doubled C-pawns, Robert, is hopeful D-file control. In this case, he even has this rook lift on E6, which is threatening to pop over to B6 or A6 at a moment's notice to poke at these pawns. And white is supposed to have a mobile 3-on-2 majority, not a stuck 3-on-2 that allows things like knight H4. So what went wrong here so early for Duda on the white side of the Berlin?
Well, I don't want to go so far as say things have gone totally wrong, but
okay.
He played one of these setups where it's not as forceful. I guess he allowed black to sort of control the board by playing H5, H4, and then the rook came to D8 unchallenged. He was able to take back on E6 with the rook rather than the pawn. Well, that's not always a bad thing from White's perspective, because taking on E6 with the pawn often fortifies the position. It does make it more of a majority for White on the extreme right side of the board, on the king side, with G and H versus just G. But here, I think that White is still doing quite fine. Everything is defended. The C4 pawn can be attacked with move like rook to E4, and I think that's coming soon. Once you can play H5, you can then play G4 for White. So I think that Duda should be quite happy that he is controlling the board. And I think Karjakin at this stage of the game, right now, I think that he's been pushed back and his threats have been parried. He is going to go B5, B4, and maybe try to make progress over there. But at the same time, I like to move H5.
Yeah, I like G4 to follow it. Okay. You convinced me. I overreacted, I guess, and I admit that knight F2 was really a key move to kind of start the pushback. Not only did it remove the rook from D3, but opened up that option you were highlighting that black has to constantly be careful of a rook to E4 hitting the C4 pawn. So G5 is played, and bishop C1. I like that move. You know why? Why trade on G6 when your opponent has just given you a passed H pawn, right? Harry, you're about to become a wizard on H8. I mean, this is looking like maybe a potential rebound here for the Polish youngster.
Yep. And I'm trying to figure out the exact way to progress here, because knight G4 is one of those moves that's very tempting. When an opponent's a pawn on G5 and you can't kick my knight away, I like putting my knight on G4. I can play pawn G4,
but then you give up the H4 square, right?
That's exactly what I'm concerned about.
No, I like your move knight G4, and I think even just from the perspective that it threatens H6 in a lot of positions, right? I mean, there's also this outside plan of bringing the king up to F3 and G4. I mean, that seems weird. Let's not get the king mated, but okay. The idea you highlighted earlier, I guess I forgot that E4 was open, and here comes the C4 pawn being targeted. This looks like a nice move from Duda.
Yeah, and actually, there are many different options here. One, knight H3 is also possible because now you can't go G4 as black. So knight H3 might pick up that G5 pawn. How do you defend it? Knight G3. I guess you have rook D3 as a response to hit my G3 pawn. So I don't want to move that knight away too soon. And perhaps that's why he didn't play knight G4, because then rook D3 would have been an option as well. That knight perhaps belongs in the E4 square, where it both hits G5
but
and...
you feel like if there was some way to remove this knight from F5 without having to play G4, that's why I like this idea of king F3, king G4. There's even maybe rook F1 in some positions where then knight G4 is coming with tempo on the knight. I feel like if this knight has to move and you didn't have to commit G4, a lot more roads open up, right? Both the H-pawn rushing up the board, maybe threats of E6 up. Well, right as I say that, he decides the H4 square doesn't worry him.
I was about to recommend the move Rook H1 and get, knight on G7. Typically, you don't see a knight go to that square with a passed pawn.
You mean you're not into fianchettoing your knights?
I am sometimes, but when there's a passed pawn there, I'm worried about H6, and then just you can't stop me from promoting. But to Rook takes C4, Rook takes C4, H6.
Yeah, look how crazy that would be. Everyone, look at this combination on analysis board.
That might work.
H6, king moves, H7. Holy shenanigans. Robert, I don't like the eval bar very much, but in this case, it proves your genius was correct. White would be winning if he goes for this amazing sack. He didn't go for it.
I think after H6, you would have to play Rook C6 back, and then White had Rook H1. So, I mean, that was definitely a possibility there.
Wow, here, and the Rook would have had to come back.
It's harder to do it now because Rook C4, Rook C4, H6. Now the B Rook can retreat, so... Yeah, maybe.
Robert, look at you. Did you eat your Wheaties this morning?
No, actually.
But you saw the U.S. Open yesterday, so you're practically a scientist.
I was at the U.S. Open. I saw Novak Djokovic versus John Millman and Madison Keys and Carlos Suarez Navarro. So I had a good time.
Wow. No, but I mean, seriously, that was a nice find. It's an interesting shot to keep in mind when we have Harry, the H-pawn over there looming just a few squares away. And honestly, an instructive tactic for those always wanting to learn from these matches. This idea of just how dangerous a pass pawn can be, and honestly how useless a knight can be at stopping pass pawns, right, Robert? That's why combinations like that work in Tactics Trainer. So
absolutely. And here, so things have been settled a bit. In F5 played. So if you play G takes F5, Rook takes F5 comes with check. The H5 pawn, well, it's still an outside pass pawn. I can just retreat my king, say to G2, and then try to work that pawn forward. But I also don't have to take on F5. There's no real reason to, because I have a protected outside pass pawn. If you take on G4, I'll just take back with my knight and make some progress. So Bishop E3 looks like a good move. And F4, don't love that idea. I think you need to be able to capture on G4 and not leave White with a protected passed pawn. And so that's why King F7 was played. But how to move forward for Black? Are you going to try to go King G7, King H6? That looks like a sort of difficult task to have. And by playing Rook C6, it opens up ideas of G takes F5 to remove the Rook's protection of that E6 knight. So far, I'm not sure who...
What I mean is I was wondering, was White in a position to maybe take on F5 there, and after Rook takes, King G4? You couldn't play King F6 because Knight E4 check. I didn't know why it didn't make sense to be a little more forceful in taking on F5 and play King G4. But, I mean, I think White is still in the driver's seat with this H-pawn anyway, but it's looking harder for White to make progress.
Yeah, although this looks like a pretty nice defensive resource for Karjakin because... Knight E5 check is good. You don't want to take on E5 because then the C7...
He walks into the face of danger. Discovered check. What? Baloney. Wait, is Knight D3 check allowing Knight takes D4? That's why.
Yeah, that was something. But Knight C4 check looks like a good check.
It's a gutsy play by Karjakin, yeah.
Now A5 is hanging. D6 is hanging. So... plays. Okay, so now...
Okay, there's threats of Bishop F4, so don't hang your Rook. Okay, he sees
Knight takes A5. He could have just taken on A5.
He could have, you're right. He goes for it the second time around, but you're right, he might regret losing that tempo.
And there goes the G pawn, but Knight C4. You can always play Knight C4 to try to trade off that knight for the bishop, but this is looking good for Karjakin again.
Suddenly it is. The table turns so quickly here.
King H3, Rook H1 mate. So don't
blunders made of King H3. Karjakin sees it at the last second. Backs that thing up, says, "Whoa, Nelly."
But now this is like transitioning into...
Yeah, who's better now, the A pawn or the G pawn? Okay, Knight C4 threatens both, protects and threatens to take D6.
So King H3 now.
If King H3, Knight A3, you get King H2 in time and don't get mated.
No, Black should be winning this.
Yeah, suddenly the bishop is flexing its open board muscles over the knight. You can see it takes away all these squares. The one thing we haven't really highlighted, Robert, in our analysis of these two games is that both players seem to be equal for the most part throughout most of the middle game on the clock, and then suddenly in these endgames, it's like they're both at 2 minutes, and Jan-Krzysztof goes way down on the clock.
Did Karjakin just blunder this?
Whoa! He just blundered. He blundered with rook takes f4 check, right as I was highlighting the time.
And he could have won king g3 and then won the rook, but instead he thought that he was winning, but he forgot about the rook check from behind. And
my gosh.
That is
suddenly White's winning.
Yep, king h3, knight e3. Just take that pawn off the board, give up your a pawn for the g pawn.
Yeah.
It's winning. And something interesting to note, and our stat man, Mike Klein, mentioned it to me, that this is the second straight game where Karjakin had rook and bishop versus rook and knight. And the second straight game where he was outplaying Duda with rook and bishop versus rook and knight. So
I feel like that's the kind of stat that's going to come back throughout this match as far as the type of pieces these players favor.
Yep. But
this is okay. This is a no-brainer now, and Karjakin greatly regretting for those wanting to check out the analysis board. It all started right back here. G2 was not the losing move. Giving up the bishop with check was okay. Everyone, I'll bring up the next game, but the move had to be king to e3, king to g3 here. And black maintains the threat. Although, actually, Robert, in that position, there would have been knight e3, and if g1, rook g4.
Yeah, and I thought you'd win.
You win the rook, but you're probably not winning. I mean, if the trade happens and white has knight d5.
Absolutely in agreement. And I think at that point, Karjakin had already thrown away his winning advantage. He could have played g2 earlier instead of moving his bishop to f4, because trading on the knight with bishop wouldn't have helped white stop the pawn from promoting. So he missed his opportunity. And now we see an interesting position once more. We started in a Sicilian, this time in a bishop b5 check Sicilian. And what we see on the board is that both sides have equal material. White has this very clear 2-on-1 on the A and B files. Black has the superior center in terms of number of pawns, but it's very difficult for black often to play this move pawn d6 to d5. And the reason why this idea with b4 is so good for white is there's no a7 pawn to go to a6 to kick this away from b5. And that knight will stay there forever, saying you're never pushing your e pawn because d6 is weak. And you're not pushing your d pawn because I have firm control over the d5 square. So a very clear idea for white is to eventually play a4, then to play a5, then to play a move like knight a4, and put a piece on b6. And that's why black went active here with knight e5, because my knight wants to go to c4. It might not be able to stay there for so long, but a knight on c4 is quite an annoying piece. So knight a4 just stops knight c4 in its tracks, and that knight is coming right to the b6 square. So I feel
like this reminds me of a Russian schoolboy lesson I was given by Uncle Yermo at some point, where basically if white has this 2-on-1 and black can't get d5 and to try to change the structure, these positions are just almost positionally winning for white, right? Because as you highlighted, there's no way to get rid of the minors on the queen side, and white's just going to use access to these squares and eventually advance the a-pawn. And again, black has to find some way to either make counterplay on the c file work or change the whole nature of the structure by opening the center with d5. And if you can't, you're just positionally busted.
Yep, that's a very good point. And now this knight is rerouted up to b2, which once more is an awkward place to be. We've seen this knight, another.
But I think he's going for the plan you highlight. I think he wants the a pawn to lead the way, bring that pony back behind, and then enter into b6.
Yep. And so if I'm black, do I just play rook a to c8 here and say, well, you may try to push that pawn on the a file, but I'm going to try to take control over the c file?
I think either that or he has to try for d5. I mean, we can calculate the fact that one of the issues with knight a4 we didn't point out is you said previously d5 wasn't possible, but it might be possible now.
d5, I'm always concerned with a rook, queen on d8 with a rook facing me on the rook d1. So that's something that concerns me. It might be good, but
no, you're right. d5, even like rook c to d1 to avoid the trade. That's a good point, Robert.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit iffy at the moment. And okay, I think Duda going to a think here makes perfect sense. He's doing fine on the clock, but you did a great job, Danny, pointing out that it seems like things are level, and then all of a sudden we look at the time, and Duda has 15 seconds left.
Yeah, and that's what's happened a few times, right? They were level. About the 2.5-minute mark is when suddenly you see Karjakin has gained a big edge on the clock.
And there goes d5.
Okay, he goes for it. But I think rook c to d1, I mean, that was the move that you highlighted, and I think it was a great point. And it's a good lesson for all Sicilian players. If and when you can get d5 safely tactically, it's often a change in the structure that favors black, especially in dragons where it opens up the bishop, and you've already got the c file, so the d file helps. But if it doesn't work tactically, then d5 is a move that really can backfire. Interesting, bishop d4 was played. I think that's also cool because if the knight moves from e5, we have e5 and then f4 reinforcing a big space advantage.
Yep, and you limit the knights. That's you're saying it another way. By having a spatial advantage, you limit your opponent's pieces. So even here, like you can play e5, allow the knight to capture in d4, and try to play f4 afterwards. The only issue I see if knight takes d4 ever happens instead of this, well, there's always queen b6 pinning, and there's queen b6 check picking up the knight on b5. I guess you have rook c5. No, but queen b6, rook c5, knight d4 comes into play. So
ooh, sneaky Robert.
Queen b6, king h1. Now I can take on b5, but you take on c6. I need to evaluate that, and I'm not sure how to.
But it feels like Sergey missed his chance against d5. I still liked your rook to c to d1 better than bishop d4, but if he takes b5 and white takes c6, maybe even just take back. Isn't my bishop kind of a nice piece against that knight on b2? I mean, looks like we're going to find out because he's going for that line.
Right, so
I think b takes c6 here. You don't want to take on b2 because likely white takes on b7 with tempo.
Right. All right, so I would take, b takes c6 here, of course, makes sense. And if I'm white, I don't want to play a4 too soon because by doing so, I actually sort of weakened both my A and B pawns.
Yeah.
I wanted to force black, well, he played it.
Ooh.
I wanted to force black to start attacking my pawns first. But I guess if you're going to play a move like knight d3, your b4 pawn is safe and sound.
Yeah.
So do I play queen g5?
If the queen goes to b6, maybe you go knight c4 with tempo and then keep going. So, okay, the queen goes to g5. I spy with my little eye. But isn't the c6 pawn hanging?
Well, then bishop b2, queen b2, rook takes a4. So.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, but I get mated on the back
rank.
rank.
No, yes, mate and bake.
But rook c6, queen d2. That way I mate you first in the back rank, I guess, maybe, hopefully.
You can mate me anytime. The fans have been donating based on the blunders and the brilliancies they've seen so far, Robert. So that's been kind of fun. So we'll try to read some messages when the tips come in for these players, so we can remember some good messages that maybe comes with a donation to tell them after the match. So we appreciate everyone's support, and thank you to all 2,000 of you that are with us already. The match has just begun.
It's only just begun.
To live.
Yep, there we go. We're on the same page. And rook 8, Denny, sneaky move. Because b5, queen takes, b5 happens, and white is not
that's tactics. Back rank problems. Get some. Don't, and now he even just brings the queen to b5 straight up. h3. Wait, what? Oh, h3, then queen b5. Sorry, I missed the move order while analyzing, because here, otherwise, the white rook would be hanging.
Yep.
But okay, this is, it seems like Duda held his own there, the middle game transition. He's not down on the clock in the same way he was previously. We might be getting our first... We've already had a win for each player in this match. We might be about to get our first peaceful result of the match here.
This looks very peaceful. And I'm trying to even think which of the two players would be playing for a win here. I guess white, because queen b4, rook c8 check. That's a blunder waiting to happen. And note that the black king has no escaping on the back rank. So if you take on b4, rook c8 check removes the guard of the queen on b4 and picks up the queen for a rook. And that said, there are still times when that's a fortress where rook and 4 pawns can hold off a queen in 3. But here, there's no reason to even think about things like that. We played e5, and Karjakin still was hoping for, instead of king g7, a move like queen takes b4 would have once again allowed rook c8 check, winning material. So
just to show that tactic for everybody, that's an overwhelm of the rook would be winning the queen. So there you go. Now he's going to take e5 with check, and I wouldn't be surprised if we just get a draw offer here and a neat shake of the hands. Moving on, as they say. Well, honestly, I was a little worried after that first game, Robert, that Duda blew, where he was really much better potentially as black in the knight, or if that this could be the start of a really rough outing. But he not only recovered with a win, for all intents and purposes, he kind of outplayed his opponents there with the black pieces, right? I mean, right now, Duda is holding his own as he takes a sip of what hopefully is lemonade and not something else.
Well, that joke caught me off guard, Danny. It's hard to catch me off guard with you, but that one really got me. And here we see another knight up, but this time with Karjakin on the black side. So do you think that Karjakin didn't like his Berlin and decided to go for the Sicilian? I mean, what goes through his mind.
I mean, you heard my initial reaction, although I feel like you saw the position deeper than I did. I thought black got a fine Berlin there, but over time, Duda did unwind and eventually use the kingside pawns with this h-pawn. He might have even missed your brilliant combination of sacking the rook to win. So I guess Karjakin didn't like it, and he decides. But, it's also early enough in the match that I personally think the strategy we've seen where players are poking and prodding, maybe finding something they like for as the time controls get faster, then they can speed up and maybe put their opponent under pressure in a position that they felt comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
So maybe right now he's just poking and prodding.
But to me, it's interesting because Duda plays the knight off with black. So I don't know if I'd be as willing to play at the black side of a position that my opponent likes to play. And here, look at Duda go, knight a5. Always a very annoying move to face when you're playing knight off, because you can't move your b pawn without allowing the knight to come to c6.
Yep.
And now white is going forward with the plan that I mentioned in the other game.
Well, this is a really important structure to know whenever you're playing knight orfs that involve castles on both sides of the board. This is sort of a classical type of structure. If anyone wants to look up a game, Geller-Fischer, where F.M. Geller, who had a great record against Fischer, for those who don't know that, I actually really put on a nice show of how to use this queenside structure. So go ahead and go to Chess.com, check out Geller-Fischer, and you're welcome for that little pro tip. But e4, okay, this is the way black gets compensation. Hopefully he wanted the e5 square, and Duda said no thank you and played f4. So, but no, this is a structure that I really like for white, Robert, because if white can close down the kingside, here comes a4, eventually even bring back the knight, either choose between a5 and c5, and white just has a positional grind.
No, this is looking, I hate these positions from the black side.
Yeah.
And, firstly, kudos to you for the great historical reference. I'm a big fan of both history and chess, and you gave the fans what they needed to know.
Geller-Fischer 1-0. Go look it up right now.
I know the game you're talking about, and I also know that Geller, I think, had a +2 score.
Yep. No, a lot of people, you remember the great champions for how good they were, but it's not many people. It's like Korchnoi had a great record against Tau, right? And Geller really owned Fischer. That was the truth. No other way to say it.
Well, I truth to power. And let's see. With these pawns, well, speaking of power, there's a pawn on d6, which is protected by a pawn on c5. And so g3 played, hoping to get some sort of attack. If you play pawn takes g3, then knight g4, queen f5,
no, but
queen
h3, look at that, look at the Polish fighter here. He's putting the Minister of Defense in a position where he's got to earn his name here, because Karjakin's just worse again. It's a super impressive play right now.
Yep. H3 is just a smart move because you did not want to allow a knight to land on g4, where it both is advancing in the position but also allowing black to start thinking about checkmating white on the h-file. So now white is just okay. So rook b1 does that.
I was going to say there's rook b1 and then bring the other rook over. That was the first thing that. What's he going to play on rook b1? Queen d3. Maybe.
Yeah, then I can take on d3 and take on. Oh, that's what he wants. So rook b1, queen d3, queen takes d3, pawn takes d3. As it is, if rook takes b7, there was knight d5 hitting the bishop on e3. Which
and then there's
still
things like
good for white.
But there's bishop d4 coming and c5 is undermined. So Duda went the safe route of just putting the rook on d1. I mean, now it looks like he can just take on b7 with the knight, which will guard c5. Yeah, and he does it.
And queen c6 is met by queen, even knight back to a5, but queen d5 is always an option as well.
Yeah.
This looks very winning.
Sorry, I just saw, I'm a little behind the Twitch guy. Macasmic says, Danny, I like him, so this is mostly just fun teasing, but he looks like he would own a vape shop and be very involved.
I love the very involved part.
I don't even know that I get it, but I know how to laugh at jokes even when I don't get it. Kind of like a 2-year-old as she learns humor. She knows when the timing is right, but she doesn't get it,
Yeah.
So
queen d4 here looks like a
he's just playing simple chess. Duda is here comes queen to d5. This is a game to make Fischer roll over in his grave and remember the nightmares he had against Geller in these types of structures. I mean, here even f5 is a threat, Robert, because if you pry open the king side, then queen d5 both prepares c6 and hits the light squares.
Yep.
I mean, this is nasty. Dude, like a honey badger.
You love honey badger. I've been waiting, Danny. I'm just gonna do it first because I've been waiting for a Zippity Duda reference from you. But
there you go.
You didn't give me a little James Basket. I think that's the person who wrote that, or sang it, I should say.
Okay, well, here White seems to be choosing between types of flavors. I mean, queen to d5. That's the move I would play with the threat of c6, although maybe a2's falling. f5 is that move that's been staring at me, but that's because I can never forget about mating. Always got mating on the brain. You know that. You can't take a5 because c5 falls. I guess you could play rook to b5 if you wanted to both guard c5 and hit a5. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, rook b5 is nice. Actually, you're throwing just to win that pawn for free. I like rook b5.
Rook c1. Duda's taking his time here. I guess he can afford it. He was up on the clock.
We see someone just say Sergey will crush Duda today 100%. Well, if
not right now. He's not.
Yeah, looking so far, Duda looking sharp. And okay, he plays knight takes c5. I guess he's calculating if rook c5. He's sorry, knight c5, bishop c5. Oh, not taken. I was like, can I start pushing my d pawn? But this is a safer option. You're forcing black to exchange the queens because, well, the knight at c5 is hanging. You play queen takes a2. I simply take on c5, and my bishop still covers the f2 square, so don't get any ideas over there. And, well, if the queens get traded, white is up a pawn, and it's a nice pass pawn. So queen b4, rook b4, and e4 is under direct threat there as well. And just you can't play rook f to d8 because bishop c5, rook c5, knight b7 was an option. So he plays knight d3. So what happens if I scoop up the e4 pawn? Can I just want to take that. There it goes.
You would ask that. What happens if you just scoop up the pawn?
Now knight b7, rook d7, rook e7 is one option. Knight b7, rook d7. What else can I do here? How else can I make progress? I just like that idea. So knight b7, rook.
I don't know. You're still driving White's advantage home. I feel like this has got to be somehow he managed to trade that weak a5 pawn for that c5 pawn earlier. Feels like Duda let a little bit of something slip here.
But not. I agree with you, but I think he's trading the rooks off because rook d7, rook e7, you have to trade rooks.
Okay.
And let's say
the d pawn is just too strong, I guess.
Well, no, it's going to become an e pawn if you take it, right? So I think my idea is if rook e7, d takes e7, rook e8, it looks like you're winning e7, but rook b3 traps the black knight on d3.
OMG. Well, there is knight b2, but then I guess you're playing rook d7.
Bishop c5.
Or even rook d7 and then knight d6 next move.
Yeah, that worked. Actually, you could take on e7 because if I take on d3, you take on b7. So much going on here.
Oh, yeah, that would be. In fact, you better be careful if that happens. Suddenly, White has back rank problems over here with this weird extended pawn on g3 posing tricky little problems for the White king.
Yep. And, okay, that king f1 was a nice move a couple moves back because the knight on d3 is still in trouble. And you made sure your king wasn't getting mated. And now after knight b2, I played bishop c5, and I protect my very important e7 pawn. And, well, that's looking like all you need. So here, okay, well, actually, now bishop f6 comes. Bishop f6, king f1, and king f3, and if bishop takes e7, there was a knight.
Yeah, but is the e-pawn? No, he gets out just in time. If the bishop leaves...
Rook e1. If you take on e7 with the rook, I trade rooks, and I have an a-pawn. If you take with the bishop on e7, your bishop's pinned. Okay, same idea, rook b7 coming next.
He's going to force the exchange of rooks, and the point is that the a-pawn is just too strong, too fast, too Daft Punk, bigger, stronger, faster.
Nice. And another rook and bishop versus rook and knight ending, by the way. But
and suddenly, the young Polish... I don't even know what to say. At this point, but he's en route to being ahead in this match and making sure everyone knows that he came to play.
Yeah, he came not just to play, to win. You and I, Danny, had these conversations earlier, and not earlier today, but just earlier this week, and we were discussing, how big of a favorite was Karjakin, and you have to consider him a huge favorite. But you and I both thought that Duda is this player who's been on the rise, extremely promising, and, well, he's not to be underestimated. And there goes the A-pawn. Wait a second. If bishop c5, don't play knight c6, then f3 turns.
Yeah, I lost in a game like this once.
But what he did, Danny, which is really smart, is knight takes f3, and he has an h-pawn. So he's an a and an h-pawn. And a bishop is good at controlling the board, but it's not that good at controlling two separate outside pass pawns.
In fact,
very good.
In fact,
finish.
it's so not that good that Sergey ready to throw in the towel. And I mean, I think I speak for most of the fans where get your Duda emotes out, right? I mean, I say make some, you say Duda.
Danny.
There you go. I say
Danny.
Make some, you say Duda. Make some.
Nope, that's not happening. I'm not.
I didn't. What are you talking about? His name is Duda.
I know what you're doing.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I am here for the chess, and that's it. And I've been pleased so far with the performance.
I have as well, but this use makes him Duda is. I cannot believe I even just repeated
that. You did. Speaking of which, what happened to the dodo birds? Right? Too bad. Moment of silence for dodo birds.
Wow. Yeah. It got real really fast.
It did. It got real too fast, and pretty excited to have everyone with us. Nearly 3,000 of you. In all seriousness, thank you for being here. Namaste to everybody, and spending your Thursday with us here, whether you're on Chess.com TV or Twitch TV/chess. So, Robert, a new opening yet again. So these guys have been mixing it up, but Duda doesn't seem to be phased no matter what Sergey throws at him so far.
Yeah, and speaking of phased, I'm looking at Sergey's camera, and I don't know if he's moved. I don't know if he's frozen or if he's just like so focused that. Has anyone seen him blink? Like we need to see if he's.
Sergey or Duda?
Sergey.
Yeah.
He just looks so intent. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's his permanent state of being.
I can't. And I know you're going to say that he did this to himself. I hope so. You're going to say that to defend me, but you know exactly what I'm about to reference right now when it comes to Mr. Karjakin, because the lack of movement, the perfect looking position of the headphones. We have our first Princess Leia reference of the day. Time for people to get at me on Twitter. The game is still live, so I don't want to hear that I've left the show behind. First person who can give me new photoshops of Sergey Karjakin as Princess Leia, which we did before, wins a 1-year Diamond membership. Use the hashtag SpeedChess and get at us here. We've got some of the latest tweets with the hashtag SpeedChess. And look at that! Somebody tweeted the blue diamond almonds that I've been eating all day. There you go. All right, Robert. Back to the show.
All right. Well, I guess I have to talk about chess now. I did enjoy your Princess Leia reference. And here we see with the white pieces, Karjakin trying to go with some sustained pressure. And what he's thinking is that his control over the king side is more important than Duda's control over the queen side. And what I mean by control over the queen side, if you look at the queen side, it looks like, well, how can black possibly have control over the queen? The queen side is locked up. Black can at some point play moves like b takes c4, open up the b file, or play for a5, a4, or a combination of those plans.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the board, white has the option to play f5. Now, e5 is hanging right now, so which queen f3 is a good move to eventually play queen g3, or a similar idea to play f5. But black can always keep the pawn on f5, actually on e5 under attack, which makes f5 extremely difficult to play. If you ever play bishop d2 as white, my rook has the b2 square to access. So I do think that.
I'm sorry, I'm just realizing that Sergey's camera must be frozen.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I didn't realize it. Ever since you said the "will he blink" thing, I've been staring at him like shocked. I just realized he's got to be frozen. Okay.
I love how you just.
I just realized it, and
you were like, Sergey should quit chess and enter staring contest. Because
I don't know exactly how to bother him right now, but I'm going to try to get him. He's been pretty active on Skype, so sorry. Keep commentating, buddy, while I troubleshoot this.
That was hilarious. Yeah, I think from Karjakin's perspective, not only is his camera frozen, but his position is frozen as well. Because you play f5, you lose sight of this e5 pawn, and you may consider playing f5 because if knight takes e5, with the queen not being on f3, you can just push f6 and sacrifice the pawn. So that's something that is certainly worth consideration if you are Karjakin. Queen g3 followed by f5 and f6 idea. So here, Duda needs to figure out what to do. He can play rook to b2, and that way you keep this knight stuck to the e4 square to protect that bishop on b2, and perhaps black can then play rook c2 and try to double on the second rank. That looks like a bit of a long story. I'm also thinking about the move, I was going to say g6, and he played it. And the reason why g6 is, of course, an option is that it protects the f5 square, and I think I'm on.
Yeah, go ahead and turn off your camera and come back for me, buddy.
Okay, well, I look like I'm Mr.
Sergey Karjakin, who is trying to troubleshoot his camera right now. Keep going. Yeah. We're doing good.
Hey,
this is fun.
that was funny. So, white is trying to push through on the king side here. And the reason why g6 was possible is because the dark squares were not under threat with the bishop on e7. It really covers these vital squares, f6 and d6. Now, Karjakin is trying to make magic happen. He would love to make progress here. And he put his bishop on g3 so that he can play f5. And, well, he's in time because f5 now, that just opens up the position. If you're black, you can play queen e8 exactly. And
you had to play queen e8.
I'm tempted for white. Do I play knight f6 check? Saying I'm forcing you to capture me, and it also hits the rook on b8. So play f takes e6, f takes e6, knight f6 check, and I think you win material.
Forces a capture, and the take back, everyone has a double threat of forking the king and queen and spying the rook on b8. So agreed down, population us. Sergey may have his camera frozen, but his position is not anymore. So sitting here taking his time. And okay, slightly different approach.
I don't understand. What did we miss? We didn't miss anything. I think that was just winning.
I think knight f6 check was only a million times better. Only. So you're saying there's a chance. One in a million.
I'm definitely saying there's a chance. Now, what black would love to do is play a move like queen to a8 here. Like, get the queen. You want to play rook f8. Yep. And you also want to attack the long diagonal. So he plays rook c2, hoping to play other rook to b2, but there's no checkmate, right? If I play, let's say I give black two more moves, rook b to b2, rook g2 check. Okay, I go king h1. I don't even have to sacrifice my queen for the two rooks. And so I think that black is in a very difficult spot here, and I hate the position, honestly. I think that now Karjakin is going to win this one. I didn't understand him missing knight f6 check. Felt like a winning move, but okay, if he's going to play this, it still looks good. So, okay, king g7, you have to do something like this. Now you can play e5 without running into queen d5 with the check. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that's nice, but okay, e5, I'll still play queen d5 anyway.
He's still in control if you're Sergey, but yeah, he did miss knight f6 check, but now I don't see how you deal with the e-pawn and then the potential of the d-pawn. So, looking pretty good.
Right. And all right, so queen e4. Does black even have a move? He took on a2, so it's queen e6, rook e6. We get a queen trade. The rook's coming e7 with check. Maybe equal material, but the position is far from equal, that's for sure.
Yeah, it seems over, honestly. We have our first donation with a message here to read, Robert. Shredder Roy says the dude's going to get carjacked. Get it? Play on words. Duda and Karjakin.
When you have to say get it, that's already a tough spot. Also, another rook and bishop versus rook. There's two rooks and a bishop versus two rooks and a knight. So every time we've seen this, it's been Karjakin with the bishop versus Duda with the knight. So maybe we should ask about that later. I also want to point out that the Karjakin joke, there was an amateur Team East name many years ago that was avoid Karjakin Road, and Road spelled like Michael Road, R-O-H-D. Right. And that was, at the time, pretty clever.
I remember. But I feel like the Karjakin has been butchered by Americans for long enough. So we do appreciate the donation. But, yeah. Well, Sergey's still trying to figure out his webcam while he also figures out the right way to outplay his Polish opponent. But he did do so that game, brought the match score to level. So with about 35 minutes left here in the 5-minute portion, we have a tied match, which I don't know that everybody thought we'd get as far as these two guys coming in on paper, but Duda bringing it.
And Karjakin once again avoiding the Berlin. This is actually something we should keep in mind for the post-match interviews, because he played 3a6 in the Spanish in this one. So he decides not to play in the Berlin, and Duda, interestingly, decides to play an exchange. And I've had experience from the white side and the black side of this opening. I feel like it's more fighting than people give it credit for. So Duda living up to his username, Polish fighter. And he's trying to...
Don't worry about it. He's trying to test it. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, where'd I go? That's what I want to know.
You're not here anymore. That's the thing.
Okay. Well, you mean as long as you can hear me, you don't need to see me. It's probably better for everyone anyway.
Go ahead. We'll let my my sleazy salesman facial hair lead the way.
Yeah. I'm an abyss right now. So anyway, about the position itself, as we figure out where my camera went, it looks like that, black is doing all right. You have the two bishops. Your position is quite solid, and b6 is, generally speaking, a very important move, because if you castle queenside right away, knight c5 happens. And you have these double pawns, which means that white has a stable structural advantage. Mm-hmm. The problem for black is if you castle on knight c5 is the advantage that black does have is having this light square bishop, whereas white clearly does not have one. You have to give that up to double those pawns in the first place. And so here, the b6 move stops the knight from infiltrating. Black can eventually castle. Whoa, I got huge. It will eventually castle. The rook will come to...
Right now, just don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm not worried. I'm just worried for all the fans. Not worried about myself. Yeah. Just, I want to make sure that people are breathing okay. They can listen and learn. And all right, so Duda first to the d file, first to create some pressure along that file, hitting the bishop, but you're not in time to really do anything of significance. If the knight was on d4, you could make a move like knight takes c6, but knight d4 here is met by the move bishop to, say, e7. Note that bishop d6 cannot be played by black next move, so let's say I play a move like f3 for white. Bishop d6 might run into bishop takes b6, so let's keep an eye on that. Additionally, black is going to play bishop e7, followed by bishop to e6, and that way the rooks can get traded and black doesn't have to be concerned. And I'm trying to think, does black want to trade both rooks or just one? I think you want to trade both pairs of rooks so that you enter an endgame potentially with the two bishops advantage, whereas if you trade one pair of rook, I think that white's rook is more active. I don't see a real plan for the black rooks. So, so far, very normal position. Let's see, knight e5. Well, that's looking good.
b3, though.
b3, maybe knight g4 here.
Yeah, it's hard to want to keep distracting Sergey from his camera right now, everyone, while he's involved in a match. But we're doing our best. Right now, Robert looks great. This is proof of how good-looking you are. Even in closer, high definition, you look just as good, buddy. So
I appreciate that.
That's something I can say for myself, so good for you. h3, though. Guards g4. Here comes f4. Me likey.
Ooh, and Beer Holland, you're lovely, Robert. Don't worry. What a sweetheart. That just
total
made
sweetheart.
My day. Okay, so all the rooks are finally gone, and we'll see that the bishop on e6, you can support the c5, c4 idea. Mm-hmm. The problem with c5 is that now white can play knight d5. The good thing about not having any rooks, though, is that then black can respond with bishop a3 if you so choose, and say, well, my bishop is just going to sit here and you can't kick me out. And then black can play c4 after that. So, for example, knight d5, if you want it, you can take on d5, of course, but which you very well may consider, because after knight d5, bishop d5, pawn d5, black can then play c4 as well. White can here play knight f4 to protect this knight to come to d5, because after knight f4, you're throwing the bishop on e6. But either way, no matter once this knight gets to d5, I can play bishop a3 and try to follow it up with c4. If white plays knight d5 and c4 himself, then black can play b5, attacking the queenside pawn. So it's something to keep in mind that just because that c2 pawn may reach the c4 square doesn't mean that there's a problem. And I think that Duda is being down a minute on the clock, could could be another issue. Time management has not been his strong suit, I would say, in the first 5 games of this match. He's been down on the clock very frequently, and he plays knight d5 here, trying to liquidate. I think he realizes that he's the one in danger of getting in trouble, and so
he's trade pieces.
Okay, now play knight takes b4, and you have no problems whatsoever because they're an opposite colored bishop ending. That's for sure a possibility. Do you want to play f4 as white? By playing f4, you kick the knight away, but you also create some weak squares. You want to move like bishop c1 here for white, threatens to trap that bishop with the move a3 next. But I was going to say, if you played bishop c1 as white, then c4 would have happened for black. Now you could play bishop c1, renewing that threat, but the knight has the d3 square to use for black. So a4, good move, very useful. And okay, now knight takes b4, pawn takes b4, knight d4. The bishop just moves away from e6 to, say, d7. I think that black is the one who should be a little bit better here. So you can also play the move pawn takes b3 here, because after pawn takes b3, knight takes e6, king e7, knight back to d4, b2. You can't stop me from queening. So after pawn b3, you should just take back on b3 with the pawn, and then the bishop can remove itself to, say, d7. Black can play c5 after that, and this pawn on b3 is the one real target on the board. So he does this move order, bishop d7. Idea being that now you could take on b3. Also, black might consider playing a3 himself. And the reason why a3 is a useful move is then you play c5, and you say that you have a very far advanced, it's not a pass pawn,
yeah,
there's a pawn in front of it, but there are some ideas to try to push that pawn and push other pawns and break it free. So now c5 for black for sure. Looks like a good move. And black could have considered bishop f7 instead of bishop d7, because that would have made it harder for white to play king f1 with knight takes c4 tactics available and the a2 pawn being a clear target. So let's see, knight coming to a5. Knight a5 here, I guess. Oh, knight a5, knight takes b4. What a shot. Oh, that would be very nice. So knight takes b4. I guess it's still good for black.
Yeah, because you can take b3. You don't have to take back.
Oh, no, but then ab3, knight b3, knight d5, you can't take b6.
He goes for it. Wow, what a shot.
Yep. This looks like the worst is definitely behind Duda. So let's see. What can black do to make any sort of progress? It looks like nothing. Knight takes c4, pawn takes c4, pawn b4, bishop b6 check, opposite colored bishops, and white would be the one up pawn there. Or up, yeah, up one pawn. So there's bishop e6. So what up? No, never mind. That's a good looking move. It's a real good looking move. So king d2 here. That way after pawn b3, knight b3, king c3, and that looks like potential saving grace for white, with the knight back to a5. So pawn b3, knight b3, check, king c3, knight a5, and the c4 pawn is still weak. You go knight d5, bishop takes d5, you can take back on d5 and try to claim that this bishop versus knight ending is just absolutely fine. But yeah, looks like Karjakin is on the better side of this somewhat equal-looking position. I think that the knight against the bishop would be a good thing for him to have. So it looks like Duda, 27 seconds, Karjakin, 50 seconds, both sides nearing time trouble. So
you're pretty amazing doing commentary while I'm trying to help figure out things for the show. So just wanted to tell you that. Tell you how talented you are, Mr. Hess, the talented Bobby Hess.
You know, I do my bestest. And, well, let's look at this. Now it's a new ending, bishop versus knight. Pawn on b6 and c5, so very solid setup for black, whereas the pawn on c4 has to be protected by the king. And the good news for white is that the bishop really does control many of the squares. I played b5, he does it. Now he's a passed pawn. I think I would have considered starting with knight g6 earlier for black, just because they would have allowed the knight to try to infiltrate via f4, h4.
Yeah, now
okay, c4, you just move the bishop away.
Bishop to b8, I guess, and black better come back, otherwise king c4 comes in. Ooh, he's going to allow it. King c4, knight d7 comes into either e5 or b6, so that's the thing.
So knight d7, you move your bishop to f4 probably?
Knight b6 check, and then the king. Okay, the problem is even if black commits, right? Knight b6 check and king up, this light squared this black bishop will. Ooh, I didn't see that. Knight's coming to e5 and then winning the f3 pawn. Fork town.
Well, this looks not good for Duda. He's got 3 seconds left. And the 1 second increment will help him
defend, but not enough when you're probably losing anyway, right? So the knight is ideal in these sort of situations, poking and prodding at weaknesses on both colors.
Yep.
Here comes e5, but then knight e4 check would have forked the king and bishop again. So
and king c4 here.
King c4.
Keep making that progress.
Infiltrate.
h4
would have been strong there. And I'm pretty sure if h4 g4, black could have just taken with the knight and then h3.
That was my idea.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, doing my best to keep up with you.
King c4 here, and the bishop no longer can stay. King d3. And designs.
And with only 3 seconds on the clock, it's Rover. Red Rover.
Knight c5, game over. Knight c5, c2 check, knight b3 check, c1 queen. There it goes. So Karjakin proving that he was on the better side of what looked like it should have been a draw with proper play. But that's really the frustrating thing, is that you have a position there where you're like, I know I should be able to hold this. I know I'm not that much worse. But then you also know that you have no time, and you're playing a speed chess match, and Karjakin is a monster.
Yeah,
the guy is super good.
Super frustrating. That's exactly the kind of endgame where you imagine if Karjakin gets more games like that, that's the match that Duda wants to avoid. And I think he's done a good job of avoiding that so far today. But that was a vintage Karjakin win right there.
And Duda mixing it up completely here. Well, I should say Karjakin mixed it up with playing bishop f4 in the second move. And Duda entering a very offbeat opening. So we see that black has gained space on the queen side. And normally when you hear the expression gain space, you think that's a good thing. However, sometimes you gain space and it's a terrible thing because your pawns are overextended. And here's one of those positions where if black's king, let's say we're on h1 and you already castled on that, you see the pawn on b5 is the target. The pawn on c5 is very good, but it's more about the b pawn than anything. And so Duda, very quick development here. Watch out for that b2 pawn. Knight h5 would force that bishop back to c1. So if you're Karjakin here, you might even consider the move knight c3. Plays knight h3, saying, okay, go ahead, play knight h5, I'll play bishop c1. Your knight on h5 is just as bad, if not worse, than the fact that my bishop had to retreat to its starting square. And so, knight takes d5 would allow probably just pawn takes d5, bishop b2, knight d2. The two pieces and the rook and 2 pawns for 2 pieces was not worth it. And here, though, it looks like Duda is, continuously saying, you cannot take my pawn on b5 as queen a5 check. So you're going to play bishop e2, you're going to castle, but the space I gained on the queen side, that grab, is beneficial for black. And you don't really want to play bishop b7, at least not yet, because the bishop just stares into a brick wall of pawns. But an idea for black is to play at some point e6 to try to gain more space. You don't want to be left with this pawn on d5 sort of suffocating your position. So it would be much nicer to be able to play e6, and especially because white does not have the pawn on c4, it transposes into a Benoni structure where you don't have to deal with some of the same consequences thanks to this pawn on d5.
What you said.
I did my best. Now knight takes d5 is actually a threat, by the way. Knight f takes d5, because then you would have gained a third pawn for 3 pawns and a rook for 2 minors, which is very, very good. Not compensation. It's actually ample material, more than enough. Whew. So, hey, I see Armenia Eagles. It has to be Artak Manukyan in the Twitch chat.
It always is.
Artak. Never get enough Artak in our lives. So c4, closing up the position. Knight h5 played, kicking that bishop back to c1. And now does black play e5 here, saying I can make this move now that your bishop's there. It is. Your bishop's not at f4, hitting my d6 pawn. If you take en passant, d takes e6, black can play knight takes e6 and head right to the d4 or f4 squares. The one thing I will say is I'm not positive about the move order. You could have considered playing bishop d4 before playing e5. And the real benefit of that is just by putting your bishop on that square rather than on g7. You're not stuck with this lame duck bishop, right? This is a King's Indian type of bishop stuck behind a wall of pawns. That said, it's not like white can really make progress, because if you ever play f4, that once again opens up the bishop and gives it new life. So I think the decision ultimately was a good one by Duda to leave the bishop there. All right, f4 played. I mean, e takes f4, g takes f4, the knight on h5 is awkward. So I guess knight c7, knight c7 to e8, pardon me, was perhaps not optimal. But queen h4 here is certainly an option. Queen h4, bishop h5, take back on h5. Yep, there it is. And knight comes to f6 to g4, coming soon to a theater near you. Bishop d4, followed by knight f6 also.
Classic.
Also a possibility here and probably a good move. And what else? b3 is an idea for black. And the reason why I recommend that move at some point is that, well, maybe not now, but it's an option just because opening the b file could be useful for that rook to get into the game. So this knight swinging into the f3 square next, attacking the queen on h4. Ooh, give me that pawn. That was really quick calculation by Duda, saying, I'm going to take this pawn off the board, bishop g5, rook, queen g6, bishop e7. Oh, wait, b2's hanging. I forgot about that pawn. But either way, bishop e7 at the end traps the rook on f8. But I think
you can even play queen b2, bishop e7, queen takes a1 if that was the case.
True. I was going to throw in rook b1 first just to not allow that. But, okay, I got queen g6 as a pin, and now it goes knight f6. Rook g1 is met by knight takes e4 even. Just give me more pawns.
Yeah.
Knight g4, of course, is probably even a better move there. So, problems for Karjakin. He's down a pawn. The pawns on the h file, del pawns don't look great, but you have 2 bishops.
Sometimes it's easy to take for granted that your opponent can take pawns on the side of the board where you think you're going to be the one attacking, like the open f file and everything that Karjakin wants to do in this structure to attack on the king side. You just forget that Duda can sneak in like a thief in the night and just grab a pawn, and now you're all in. Now you sack a second pawn just to get more squares for the ponies.
Yep.
Knight comes into e4, and okay, it looks really nice, but the truth is you're down 2 pawns, right? Am I doing my math right? I mean,
but c5 is falling. Well, actually,
but you could even play queen b6. I mean, that's a lot of, and he goes for it. That's a lot of peshki. Here comes f5.
Yep, bishop g4 and f5, things like that. You're absolutely right. In fact, I was thinking that you could even play queen e7 to provoke d6 so that your bishop gained the control of that long diagonal. But I think queen b6 is just much smarter. There's no reason to even have to calculate giving up that c5 pawn. So here, knight g5, what is that threat? So what about...
It threatens queen takes h5, just straight up. But I think both h6...
Bishop g4.
And even f6. And, your move bishop g4. Way to outdo me, as always.
Well, I really just don't want to touch any of my pawns for the time being. I'm just trying to wait for the right moment.
But h6 is also a way to just call the bluff, right? Because there's no sack here. There's no queen takes h5, and then the other knight comes in because black can just swing the lady over and everything's guarded. So h6, even though it's kind of the forcing response to knight g5, it doesn't mean that the knee-jerk response is the bad response. James Coleman in the Chess TV chat just suggested knight takes f7, but I don't think that's going to be enough for white. Black just captures everything.
Yeah. I mean, knight f7, rook f7, king. I mean, I would have probably just gone for it because I understand that white's position is not very good. So rook takes take on f7 would have been just like I'm playing speed chess. Let's just go for it. Knight f7, rook f7, king f7, queen h5. There it is. But you can't. I mean, you should not spend so much time before playing a move like that. And actually, bishop g4 was an amazing response, and played amazingly quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, how is this anything for white? I don't understand how black is not just.
Okay, so rook f7, king f7, rook f1 check. If you go king g8 back, knight f6 check.
What am I missing? Oh, queen g6. Duh.
Yep. So you have to play king. I would play king e8 here.
Well, you know what you can do? You can sack with the queen.
Ooh.
Knight f6, you just take with the queen. That's a lot of pieces for the lady. In fact, Duda does it. I think that was brilliant. Queen sack, and all of a sudden you're like, where'd all my pieces go? I have no more firepower if you're white.
Just rook d8. You can always block on d7. Okay,
he wants more than that. He wants to Bob Barker this. He wants to mate white.
Yeah.
Move the bishop, put the other bishop on h3, and problems.
E4 here, right? Just push.
Push him, baby.
E4, queen e3, bishop f3 check. Probably. Oh, wait, maybe rook g8 is an option here too. I'm trying to figure out how to mate you. Okay, so plays bishop g7.
What? He's going for the simple plan I first suggested. Probably not the best plan, but
what about, no, d7.
The threat here is bishop h3, and it's just over. So Karjakin has to play king g2. You might have been right, by the way, that something like e4 would have been better.
Yeah, I wanted my bishop on g5 rather than g7. It just felt like a more active diagonal and helped me push my e-pawn. So here, bishop bishop e6, just keep an eye on the d6 pawn. So now, how do I get this e-pawn? Queen c6 coming for the e-pawn with an e3, maybe, but then a queen e4. I'm not... a5 is under attack, so if you take on a5, there's another pass pawn that you have to deal with. So should black play rook f3 here? A brave-looking move.
Yes, somehow he did not convert that. I mean, this game should be over after white was in that mating net in the queen sack.
Yep.
Karjakin has gotten much more counterplay than Duda would have ever liked.
Oh, rook f3, queen h5 is a bit scary. Actually, no, that doesn't work. I was trying to go like rook f3, queen h5, bishop h3 check, and take on h3, but it just doesn't work because the bishop, even bishop d4 at the end, to put your bishop on b6.
Well, you and I talk about a lot how in this type of format that if you don't get something really strong for the pieces right away, the time pressure almost always favors the queen. It's just harder to coordinate everybody under time pressure than it is to play with one powerful piece. So I'm getting nervous as I see Duda's clock get under 20 seconds here.
Yep, I'm with you. I think rook g5 was a decent alternative to bishop g5 there, but okay, this still looks pleasant. How do you get out of the checks now? Queen e8, king h7, queen e4. Okay, so Karjakin also playing for a win, but that might be playing for a loss. I'm not sure. Yeah, rook g6. Oh, rook g. Okay, he's just repeating. But
you could run the king if he wants to go for the win. Now's the time. I was going to say that's how you play for a win.
So bishop f5, queen d5 here.
Queen d5, pin the rook, and here comes a7.
Unbelievable.
Get those pin emotes out because that's going to decide the game here. Ooh, even stronger. Queen b7. Can't capture.
H2. Okay, bishop f3 is actually a nice move. But H2 was I guess.
Oh, nobody wins the pawn.
So why didn't he go H2?
I think he just missed it.
A7. This game is crazy.
This game was nasty, and honestly, Duda made the right queen sack. There's no way.
I don't know if he's even losing. Rook takes. Okay, he goes back there. I thought he was going to try to take on b3.
Yeah, but again, it's hard to coordinate under time pressure. So I'm sure Black was winning in several places in this game. That the queen sack was good, but I'm not going to be surprised when White wins this game at this point.
Yep. So the 4 pawns over there, b4, b5. Are there any mating ideas for... king b6, bishop b3 check. No, but there's c5.
Yeah, this is just way too many pawns for White. You couldn't capture because of queen e6. I mean, a7 now? Yeah. This is just too much, and he loses on time. no surprise, and that's a heartbreaker for the Polish underdog here, because that was a game Black should have won. And the queen sack was good, but I think he got passive and nervous. Moves like bishop g7 and rook f7 rather than going for something more aggressive right away. But okay, easier for us to say than for Duda to do Duda. But Duda ba dee ba ba die, I'm blue. So he loses and we move on.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking for him, because now he's down 2 games against the ultra talented Karjakin. And we'll see if he's able to, play or at least score better in the quicker portions. Because right now in the 5-minute, this might be our last 5-minute game, and probably
pretty good chance. Well, I mean, it depends on how long it goes. If it's a long Berlin, depends on the type of Berlin we're into.
So c5, early c5 by Karjakin, stopping knight d4 clearly. And the d5 square, well, the knight's on one around c3. So normally when you don't want to play c5 as black in Berlin, because the knight jumps to d5 followed by c4. Here, at least, black has a move to gain. So now knight d5. Okay, so he throws in this rook d1 check first, which I like. That way the king can't go to c8. And the king really wants to be on c8. So actually, this might have been a blunder by Karjakin, because bishop d7 is met by e6. And pawn takes e6, there's knight g6, and that actually wins the game, because knight... Oh, no, it doesn't. I thought I would be winning your bishop, but you have knight d6 at the end there, so never mind. Take it back. But e6 takes... Yeah, I definitely take it back. I forgot that a piece can block on the d6 square.
This feels like the kind of Berlin that can run quickly off the rails for black, though. I like these e6 aggressive lines. Okay. Karjakin calmly plays bishop d6 and doesn't care about his light square bishop. Diamond members, Zygomorph, all the members in the Chess TV chat, Twitch TV chess as well. We do read the chat. This is our best situation right now, given some technical issues we're dealing with. So if you want your chat to be read, have something productive and nice to say. Let's move on. What's going to happen in this Berlin if we trade the light square bishop for the knight on f4?
Let's see. So pawn d7, g takes f4. If you eventually take on d7 with your king, then I'll be able to take on f4 with my bishop, because the bishop in d6 will be pinned. So that's the good news. The bad news, haven't figured that out yet. So knight e7 to kick this rook away from d5. Then rook... Ooh. I like that, actually. So now by rook h5, just develop. Now the other rook can come to d1. The h6 pawn is the target. Bishop comes c3, kicking that rook from its h8 square. And that's going to be... Actually, if I get another move, bishop c3 wins at least a pawn, because if you put your rook on h7, there's always knight g5 tactics. So f6 played by Karjakin, but that also weakens some of the other squares. So he plays rook d1, threatening bishop takes f4. If you move your king to e6, as he just did...
Yeah, I do.
I would think about...
No, but this is the kind of...
Is that rook going to get trapped on h5 somehow?
I don't think so. I feel like this is the kind of position where all of black's weak pawns are really going to be the thing that tells the story here.
Yeah.
I mean, here comes rook e1 check. There's also this knight on f3. I don't think it's found its final home yet. Ooh. But you're right. Okay, the immediate threat of king g6, does that force knight h4? Looks like it does. If knight to g6, there's... Okay, I want to play rook f5, but probably can't afford a sack on h4.
Right. But now knight f5 is an option for white as well, right? Because knight f5, if we trade, my rook gains access back to the d5 square. And if you play like knight f5, king g6, I just take on e7 with check, hitting your rook on g8 as well. Black is up a pawn, and the pawn's starting to look a little bit better. They're ugly. They're double C pawns, double F pawns, isolated double F pawns, isolated H pawn. But if I can trade those knights off the board, or if black gets another move and plays rook g5, then all of a sudden, white's in quite a deal of trouble. So he doesn't indeed play knight f5. He has to play rook g6 to protect this.
This is just... So having gone back to his Berlin, I guess Karjakin is feeling better about his chances now than our theories of why he was avoiding the Berlin after that brilliant H-pawn game that Duda had earlier. I feel like it's weird because I don't feel like Duda has been worse than Karjakin, but he's just down 2 games.
Yeah, he missed the opportunity, right? That last game, he was certainly, and the first game with Black, he was should have been winning with D5. Instead, he ended up losing that end game. So there have been moments really where, but also to Karjakin's credit, the game that Duda won, the second game overall, where Karjakin just blundered a bishop and then threw away the game. So it's it's been definitely, I would say, slightly in Karjakin's favor, but I agree that the score does not tell the full tale because it feels like Duda has been hanging in there toe-to-toe, and unfortunately he's down 2
But
games.
again, I guess that's what they would say, right? Scoreboard. You can hang in there all you want, right? Scoreboard. So, and now that he's down a pawn in this weird-looking Berlin and a minute on the clock, you feel like Sergey's in good shape again.
Yep. And the good thing for Duda is you can't take on G2. Karjakin can't because rook takes F6 check, shuts off the coordination between those rooks. So the rook on G6 is very much stuck. And the rook on G8 would love to go to E8 to trade one pair of rooks off, but you can't do that because the F6 pawn is hanging at the end of that, and that, of course, would be nice for white.
But by the same token, white is also frozen, right? This rook is about, a monkey's uncle away from getting trapped if the black king can come to G6 somehow, And
what if white goes H4 here?
H4 and H5 to try to remove the rook and take F6? There you go. I guess one idea is to just meet it with H5 myself, with the point being...
take on H5.
And then I take on G2?
And I go rook back to F5.
Okay.
But then you bring that G2 rook back to G6, and you have the H6 square.
Well, not only that, I wonder if I can consider moving the G8 rook so that if you took F6, I could move my king to G8. I want to keep the pressure with my rooks. Okay. We're not going to have this line on the board anyway.
This is better for white. I mean, he just won a pawn. So white is even on material, but the pawn structure favors white. So I think Duda's entered a fair blending.
Yeah, he worked it. He got out of that somehow. Really weird. Not only has white won back the pawn, it seems like he hasn't lost any of the pressure he had. If white gets moves like G4 and H5, all the pawns on light squares trapping black pawns on dark squares is gonna really be good for the bishop battle later on.
H5 right now.
I mean, H5, rook up, G4.
Oh, yeah.
I've trapped your pawns on dark squares. My bishop better than your bishop. I like where it's headed for Duda. This could be a huge win, and I get the feeling we're getting for one of those really long matches, Robert, where they're going to finish this game somehow just under the remaining 4.5 minutes in the 5-minute portion, and we're going to get a whole nother 5-minute game.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Gobity saying slightly worse endgame, Karjakin's element.
It's so true. And while we're doing that, I'll give a shout out to Max Linek, who I think must have Polish roots. Maybe he even lives in Poland. He's saying he gifted a sub right there to one of our long-term fans and said he's doing it as long as people root for Duda. So he's a Duda fan there.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of Duda's position right now because it looks good. And if I'm Duda, how do I turn an advantage into a win? At what point do I consider playing the move F4 and then try and go G5? Too soon, I would say, because rook G8 hits the G4 pawn. But bishop E1 is so nice. Just put that bishop on H4.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
You can't play bishop E5 because the F6 pawn is pinned. Yep.
Pin emote. Yeah, Karjakin plays this move specifically to deal with bishop F4, everyone, so that rook F4 can defend.
So bishop H4, rook F4, bishop takes F6, rook F5, bishop takes H8.
Oh, dirty girl. But your bishop's trapped on H8 if I can trap it somehow.
Well, you have to move your rook, and then I go B3, and my bishop has the entire length of diagonal.
And you might even be able to just go to E5, yeah. No, I agree. Here he goes. He agrees.
Here it comes. Bishop F6. And that rook is sort of trapped at F4 as well. So after rook F5, bishop H8, rook F4, I go B3, and my bishop.
I love his calculation. to see that line. He doesn't go for bishop e5, but b3 is better anyway because it guards c4, and whether he chooses the e5 or the a1 square, he's managed to sneak in there, grab f6, and unless time becomes an issue here, Duda's about to bring the match one game closer. So.
And he's king f2 is a very nice move because now here he can play bishop e5, take, rook d4, king e2, and there's no check on the second rank.
Oh my gosh, just such good technique there, saying no to counterplay. Instructive for everyone at home. Even if you can win pawns like this, don't allow your opponent to get active counterplay, especially in a rook ending. This is as good of a game as we've seen from Duda from start to finish in the match so far. You would agree?
Yeah, and I feel like I kind of want to call him Sub-Zero because this looks like a flawless victory at this point.
That's right. Oh, dude, Mortal Kombat reference like
Liu Kang.
No one saw coming.
Yep. And no, I mean seriously, he's been down on the clock in this game, but really nicely. Oh, there it goes. Rook back. Start pushing your own pawns. King e3 can always be played. So rook b2, king e3. Just keep everything under control. Also, rook d7 check might now just be winning because you could have won king e3. I don't know why he didn't do that.
People loving your Mortal Kombat reference in the Chess TV chat. Diamond members screaming, finish him.
Well, that's what I'm looking for. Here we go. h6 comes. Rook a2, h6.
I think we're going to get one more game. If this game ends in the next few seconds, we're going to get one more game in this time control.
Duda has to be very careful not to lose on time. He's down to 4.9 seconds. Rook takes c5. Rook c7 check coming. Just do it. Check. Don't flag. Wait, you're down to... Oh my gosh, you're down to 1.6 seconds left. h6. Do it. He had 1 second left when he made that move. Okay, he got this. Barely.
Yeah, no, that was a lot closer than it should have been. But I think it came in under the clock. They get one more 5-minute game, which means all the fans here, you get basically 10 minutes extra of chess in this match because the way of the rules is if the game starts before the time runs out, the game continues, and it counts toward the total score. So that was bonkers.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who that's good for because I would assume that Karjakin, who has the lead right now, is not too displeased to play another long game.
Yeah.
But Duda's been really hanging in there every single one. And, hanging in there is a terrible phrase because it makes it sound like, oh, he's so much worse.
Well, it's just hard, though, because Karjakin is such a heavy favorite on paper, and he was leading the match, too. But, I think it's a fair thing to say. There's nothing wrong with hanging in there. If you can hang in there to the end, anything can happen.
Yeah, no, but I don't even think he's really hanging in there. He's going punch for punch. His username is Fighter, and he's certainly been fighting. And that ended Sergey's comeback. I mean, Sergey was down 2.5, 1.5.
Yep.
He won 3 games in a row. And, so my client is saying to me that this might be the lowest number of draws in the 5-minute portion. I mean, there's only been one so far. Usually we get more draws in the longer time intervals.
Only one draw in the 5-minute. He says it's likely a record or tied for the fewest of draws, but he'll check on that because that's what he likes to do is he pets his cat at his desk like Dr. Evil, checks on stats.
Yep.
So.
And I just got to give my client a shout out because I ran into him yesterday at the U.S. Open. And
Which means he's probably not
at
his desk. Thanks for letting me know that you got yourself some tickets to the U.S. Open, Mike.
You weren't invited anyway, Danny.
I know that, but people frustrated by the graph, and of course we want to have these players' faces on cameras. We're dealing with some technical difficulties. Thanks for hanging in there, all 3,500 of you. But you got to admit the graph going back and forth in a match you thought would have these two heads headed the opposite direction. At the very least, it reminds you to use the emotes there. They're kind of like dancing. They're sort of doing the tango. Those little heads on the graph there. So.
Did you just say heading in the direction? I'm just going to point out that you did something clever. I got to give you props where props are due.
Every once in a while. All right, well, like you said, I don't know who this favors either. From a momentum perspective, it kind of favors the Polish fighter, given that he just won a game in this time control and maybe finding his stride a little bit. But and given that he is facing a stronger player who's already kind of proven himself in this format, this is Duda's first time ever competing in the SCC. I feel like as the time controls get faster, Karjakin's his strengths get better, but I don't know. Maybe afterwards we'll see if Duda has something to say about that. So, and this game, I already like the way it's going for Black, at least as far as some counterplay goes. For a second I thought he just blundered. Okay, but no, Black seems okay.
Well, f6 is actually a very useful move because it stops the bishop from coming to e5 to protect the pawn on c3, and now gives the king access, to the f7 square. And there's no real attack for white. I mean, how do you make progress? g4, your f3 pawn is obviously just going to fall. And even if your f3 pawn wasn't falling, g4 doesn't threaten anything because g5 square is so controlled. And so I would consider two options here. Two options here for Black. I would consider one idea is trying to play b3 myself, acknowledging that after c takes b3, c takes b3, a3, the entire position is shut down on the queen side. Another idea, which he's going for, which is much stronger, is playing rook b8, rook b7, rook other to
rook
b8.
b1 just gets me so excited about some sort of mate on the a file.
Yeah, queen a4 ideas. And he just plays like this. Well, just put everything on the b file. Eventually play a4 for Black. Say, I'm going to go against your weakness on b2.
Yep.
And it's very clear that Black is better. Now, be careful before you play a move like rook h to b8, because bishop takes h6 does look a little bit troublesome. That said, after bishop h6, gh6, queen h6, the rook can always swing right back to g8 and shelter that king. Also, Black is playing e5 at some point. That deserves mentioning as well, because e5 wins the d6 pawn.
Yeah, well, especially if you can do it safely. You don't even need to get d6 for it to be a good idea, because you can back up your bishop to e6, remove any pressure, and then continue with your plan like you're saying on the b file. Again, this feels like Duda is in control, and we'll see if that continues into the faster portions, Robert, but other than those early games, I actually really like the way he's managed his time. He's played quickly when he's known what to do, and now it's a critical moment. He's 40 seconds in. He really wants to make sure he develops the attack right. And we talk about as coaches the difference between taking time and time management, right? Managing your time is about, not wasting it and then knowing when to use it. And it feels like he's doing a good job of that here at the end of the 5-minute portion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what's White doing in this game? Kind of going back and forth. Okay, queen to g. So why is that king on g8? Like, why did you voluntarily... Okay, he's running to h7, saying, I'm going to meet queen g3 with bishop f7. That's actually...
Yeah. Well, he's just going to sit, and he's going to continue to do your idea of advancing. Where's the counterplay for White?
Yeah, it's interesting that he didn't move his rook first before doing this. I guess he was just concerned and trying to eliminate ideas. Bishop takes h6. Oh, c3. Open up that bishop to the a2 square.
Oh.
Pawn takes b4.
Oh. It's happening. Take on b4. Just open up everything. Get dirty on the a file. I mean, something's going to happen over here. Opposite colored bishop attacks, gone wild.
So how does this work out? So pawn b4, bishop b4.
You know what I want to do? I want to take on a2. King takes, then take on b4.
Oh, yeah. Oh, does it work?
The issue is the queen's going to come to e4 at some point and eliminate my mating ideas along with it. But if Black can just bust open the a file with force. In fact, much so that Karjakin wants it off the board. I think bishop takes a2 is a threat. And
also queen takes c2, of course. I totally missed that move. Right, like with you take the c2 pawn, and then all of a sudden, White's king feels much less safe. And now you're up in exchange for how many pawns? 2 pawns. So that's actually pretty level materialistically. But if we look at the board itself, White is in quite a passive setup. Black should go after this h5 pawn, either by playing e4 and just trying to swing over and take it, or by playing queen f7 and going after it slowly. But yeah, it's I don't know. The bishop's a great defensive piece.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the things that so we got really excited about it, or at least I did, as the chat noticed. The thing is that Sergey, what makes him so good is just recognizing those practical opportunities, right, Robert? I mean, he just seriously just transitioned into a situation where the exchange is super irritating to deal with. This bishop is locked in on the dark squares. d6 managed to get, held through that whole process somehow, and White is in decent shape given the situation, right?
Yep.
That's what he does best. That's how Sergey earned his nickname as the Minister of Defense.
I would probably play rook takes b4 here and do it immediately, and he does it.
Yeah, he does it. And now at the very least, you can win d6 and even if it heads for a peaceful result. That's probably a way for black to avoid losing, honestly, by taking on b4.
Well, and white needs to watch out. Pawn takes c4, rook c4, pawn takes c5, rook c1 check, and that wins for black. So actually, black is the one. I really like black's position. I don't see peace at all because d6 is hanging, c4 is hanging, and black's king is much safer than white. So I think he played rook c1 because he was worried about pawn e4, rook c4. As mentioned, now you can even consider playing e3, saying, you know what? I'll do something on the A file later, but by playing e3, I'm going to play f4 next. I'm going to open up that diagonal, that b1, h7 diagonal, and your king's not safe. I have a really nice protected passed pawn that you're going to have to worry about for the rest of the game. So there it is.
Yeah,
e3.
no, that was a really strong move. I agree.
And f4 doesn't work because you want to play f4 for white to stop black.
Right, but then immediately there's things like rook a4 and queen e4.
Exactly.
So
f4 for black now. F4 pawn
f4 is super strong. F4 probably forces g4, right? Just to make him stay off of that diagonal. I think g4 is needed. Oh, he takes it, but here comes queen f5. Yeah, don't look now.
I love black's position.
Don't look now.
I'm looking. I know you told me not to.
Don't look. Don't look. I don't even know what you're thinking about. Don't even think about the A file.
Yep, this is trouble.
In fact, did Sergey how was g4 not the move there? I figured he had to go for something like this. This is, oh my gosh, he's going to run the king to b3. Rook a4, king b3, queen a5. I'm threatening rook b4.
But that's not, how big of a threat is that? Because rook a4, king b3, queen a5, queen takes e3, and now all of a sudden white's threatening to go.
Okay, but just from a practical perspective here, rook a4, king b3, I'll just back the rook up to a7. And your king on b3, that's just, okay, these, grandmasters these days don't get scared of things. They play more like computers than any generation before them because engines have taught us we gotta be strong calculators. But I don't know. This from a human being perspective, it looks like white is going to be in a lot of danger.
Yeah, this is queen f4, rook c3. Good defensive resourcefulness by Karjakin. So here he can play king b3, and then Duda will back up rook 8. Now d6
Don't
is
play
hanging.
c5. Rook queen a4 would have been mate.
Oh, but if now here queen d6, rook e8 check, and I think
everything gets traded.
Well, and can I start thinking about trading queens for white? I can think about playing rook e8 take queen g6 pick doesn't quite work
almost
yet.
Though, but yeah, no, it's a nice idea. Rook b8, king c3. He's probably going to play queen f6 check, forcing rook e5. Yeah, because any other king move would have either dropped b2 or d6 with check.
Ooh, nice f4. Wait, how many? White's up 2 pawns? I thought it was just 1. Wow. Okay, well then Karjakin should definitely be winning this game. And look at Duda's clock once again, 6.4 seconds left. And okay, so now rook e8. Ooh, rook e8. There might be some issue with queen f6, king c2, then queen f5 check. So king c2, queen f5. Whoa. And g5, what is that?
That's a needed move to play. We only have 2 seconds, and I think we're about to see one of those games where Karjakin swindled it again, if that's what we can call it, when he defends and then somehow is winning under time pressure. It's over. Trade, queen f7 check, get the ladies off, and c6. Boom.
Yeah, that wins. Queen d7 check, can't hurt either, but yeah, queen f7.
He's calculating it. If queen f7, everything gets traded. c6 takes, king c5, king e8, king takes c6, king to d8. Yeah, here it is, king struck. Very nice move order. King c5, and just play king takes c6 first, and then you queen with check, and it's over.
Yep.
Game. Wow, wow, wow. We officially have reached the end of the 5-minute portion. No, 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 no. Abort the game. Abort mission. Oh, man. Okay, we're going to let them know via Zoom that that's it.
Yeah, Duda does not look pleased.
And take a break. Sergey is, we're going to try to work with Sergey to get his camera right. All of you should just stay tuned, And don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a moment for the 3-minute portion in a super close match. And we are back. Robert Hess with me. And still muted, though. He needs to unmute himself. But he is back. He is with me.
I've been busy chatting with everybody in Twitch, so I think I'm trying to keep them.
You know what? That's what we pay you for, is keep the fans happy. We're just happy you're still accepting Cheez-Its as payment. What are we going to say about the match so far? Right? We've got something that the stats apparently predicted as far as a roughly 5-3 score in favor of the Minister of Defense, that being Sergey Karjakin. But it still feels like to you and I that Duda has not only held his own, but has shown that this isn't going to be one that Sergey is going to run away with, at least not to this point.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, it's been a very close match in terms of gameplay. The results show a 2-game lead for Karjakin, but it's really been anyone's match thus far. Karjakin finding the right plans at opportune moments. In the first game of the match, he was in really hot water, and he somehow survived. And not only did he survive, he ended up winning that game. And we've seen a very common theme, rook and bishop for Karjakin versus rook and knight for Duda. I don't know if that's been intentional. We know that Bobby Fischer used to love pointing at pieces and just saying, this piece is going to be a good 30 moves from now, and I want to keep that piece versus my opponent's future bad piece. So,
well, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's not something you'd always think about in terms of chess. You want to think just objectively. It varies every game, whether it's a rook and bishop or rook and knight being better. But I do think there's something to the fact that players have a style, or they just tend to prefer the coordination of particular pieces working together, right? We all know that the bishop pair tends to be an advantage, especially the earlier you can get it, because it's harder to keep a position closed than it is to let it become open. But it's interesting to see that as we head into the endgames, Karjakin tends to have piece duos and coordinations that repeat themselves. So, okay, we're going to start the 3-minute portion pretty much right now, as soon as both players are logged in and ready, which looks like they are. We did everything we could here to completely fix the tech, and we've come as far as we can. At this point, it's time for the show to go on. Right now, the players will not be on camera due to the issues that they're experiencing on their end. But here we go. Here we go.
And we're underway. There we go. Finally underway.
Finally underway. Just took a second.
And we see another Spanish. Oh, and back to the Berlin.
It's going to be Berlin all day, I feel. At this point, Karjakin, despite being in trouble the first game they had, has been doing just fine as black since then.
Yeah, no, I mean, Karjakin he's also very fast, and that's going to be important. And I think by creating a position where he's not struggling so mightily as you might in some minors and things like that, it allows him to continue playing at the pace that he feels comfortable. And Duda actually is the one who has been jetting out to an early time advantage. Okay, a couple seconds. But I don't dismiss that. Several seconds in the opening can be really essential later on in the game. And Duda, interestingly enough, is thinking now a move 10. And it's a pretty common position. He plays B3.
It's because it seems like he's tried a couple different approaches to this point, right? And maybe he's just, this is like really old school Berlin, right? White bringing the bishop to B2, where some of the more modern tries have seen the bishop go to the H2 C7 diagonal with ideas of E6. I feel like this is like Kamsky Berlin for White.
Yeah, I mean,
back when they thought the Berlin was just a way to be as slightly worse as black. This was how White played, because it feels like, all right, White just has a better structure, a 4-on-3 on the king side, and Black has to spend all this time coordinating. But I think as the knowledge of this structure's evolved, we know that Black has the bishop pair. This light square bishop on this diagonal is a really tough nut to crack, and eventually Black gets almost just as good a chances sometimes with these 4-on-3, despite them being doubled. So it's just kind of the way the approach to this position has evolved. In this line, White pretty much has to move the knight on F3 and try for things like F4, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all thematic at this point. And I guess the real thing that's keeping White's attention is, do I play C4? And there it goes. But these are moves that you really shouldn't be spending 20 seconds on in a 3-minute game. I
agree. It shows that Jan-Krzysztof may be having a little more trouble remembering his prep, or the positions he prefers in these lines, but okay. I mean, not the end of the world just yet. I agree with you though that it's a bad sign as we've transitioned to the faster time control that Jan-Krzysztof is already this much down on the clock.
Yeah, for sure.
The knight coming here to what? Either e2 and f4 or h5 and f4. Yeah, h5.
Yep,
okay.
H5. And g5. Okay, of course you play g5 to stop knight f4. On the flip side, you do give access to the f6 square. But what does the knight on f6 do? It can reroute itself to d5, but that's not an essential square. Instead, he plays g4. He can bring his king up in the near future, say g2 to g3, play for ideas of pawn to h4, pawn to f4.
I tend to always feel like g4 is so double-edged if black has kept the light square bishop, just because the potential weaknesses with h3 and g4 if black could ever get h5. Though I guess what you would say is the knight on h5 here pretty much means that that's not happening in this structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Knight h5 shuts down that side of the board. And so
Yep.
He plays f4 himself, and there we go, knight f4.
Okay.
And we see H and G versus H, so it's 2-on-1 majority.
Mm-hmm.
Black does not have the same kind of majority because the pawns are double on the queen side.
Yep.
That said, look at the white king. It's a bit exposed. So
Right.
Black can go out swing a rook to g8, let's
Yep.
say, pawn h5. That bishop on e7 can jump over to h4 or to g5
Yep.
to attack the rook or knight. And so it's not like Black's position is particularly bad. But what I'm not liking, and I'm going to say this a lot, I feel like, is look at the clock situation.
No, I was about to say, so the only thing you don't like so far about White's position has been his time management, given the way he's played this Berlin, right?
Yep. And watch out for knight d6 check, by the way.
Oh, I'm watching out.
Knight d6, pawn takes, bishop d6, my knight takes e6. Wait a second. Knight d6 may be even more powerful now.
Well, if you get rid of the bishop on e6... Okay, why not knight d5, though? Why take on e6? If you can go to d5 and undermine the dark square bishop, then suddenly c5 becomes weak, right?
So I was saying knight d6.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Okay.
Yeah, I was looking for knight d6 check, honestly. But now it's... I guess the rook on e1 is...
He probably needs to take some time to get the king off the g-file now. Don't play king f2, I think, because of bishop h4. But maybe you can get away with king h2.
You could even get away with king f2, bishop h4, king f3, because c5 would hang with check as well. So
that would have been interesting, yeah.
Not the worst thing in the world. And he just puts his knight on f6. Why not? Taking up space, rook d7 can come in.
I guess so, but combined with the issues on the clock and the way that it feels like the advantage is there, and now we're simplifying again. It's just Karjakin, playing the moves he needs to. As who made the comment earlier in the Twitch chat that Karjakin's slightly worse in an ending, right in his comfort zone.
Yep, that was one of the.
That was one of the best. I mean, seriously, if those who didn't follow the 2016 World Championship match against Magnus Carlsen, Karjakin he's just really accurate and really good at playing positions where he's a little bit worse. Plus, I think emotionally too, he just has the nerves of steel. Right, Karjakin doesn't beat himself in those situations.
No, it's very true. He has great nerves in those type of scenarios. I think it's a little overblown. How. He is a very good defender. I don't think he's always a very good defender, and we saw that in the Sinkfield Cup in particular. He collapsed in some difficult positions, but obviously throughout his career, he's proven himself as a very mighty player, and he usually has great preparation as well. So it's not like he's always on the back foot defending, but when he is, unfortunately for him, struggling in a position, he does tend to find some really great ideas.
Yep.
And in this game, he'll need to find some.
Yeah, I was going to say Duda not. Again, the main thing is time here, because Duda is doing everything you should do in this type of position. And if Karjakin falls asleep or makes even a single trade of rooks, the g-pawn is the only passer on the board.
Yep, knight f4 can come at any moment, because there it is.
And it should, right? It guards h3, everyone, and hits e6. Okay, or g5. Just push it. Push him, baby. Push him, baby. Here we go. Yes, sir, in the house. Push them, baby. Here we go.
And don't stop till you get enough, right? Just keep
don't
going.
Stop till you get enough. Actually, no, seriously. Given the time, I think this is going to be one of those, either Karjakin swindles him under time pressure or he goes down, because this should be winning for White.
Well, what's going on? I mean, White's losing all the queenside pawns.
I don't need those queenside pawns.
That's what you think. Knight takes b3. Take it. You don't want to give him e6, so knight b3, e6.
Here we go. No, but he's got rook f7.
Yeah, rook f7 is very...
Yeah. Whether it happens on the F file or the G spot, I'm getting a queen.
What if I just take on F7, G takes, and play Rook F8, and then like
takes, Rook F8, King F6, and you're going to sack your rook and get a queen. That's what you're saying.
I'm trying to do that, but I don't know if it works. So wait, Rook F7, G F7, maybe just knight takes B3.
Yeah, well, this is one of those funny moments. Who calculates better with no time on the clock? We're about to find out.
Because both of them are going to have under 10
Knight
seconds.
G6. Knight G6 first. No, he doesn't. He plays... I think that was a huge mistake, wasn't it?
Knight takes E6. No, Knight takes E6. Oh, Knight takes E6
He should have played Knight takes E6.
Okay, but he's going to
taking advantage of the rook not being able to leave the back rank, everyone. Brilliant. Now he can get a queen, and that A pawn never fell. Delicioso. Take it.
Knight takes E7.
Knight D8, even nicer. And black is overwhelmed.
Yeah, Knight A7, E6, game over.
Knight A7, E6. Honestly, we had questions who would handle our first true time scramble where the position isn't clear yet better. And it looks like Duda is going to hold his own in these scenarios because he actually just took down Karjakin in a position that wasn't clear with very little time on the clock. Really nice play there.
That was really something, and that they both had a bit of a break because of the technical difficulties, and now it looks like Duda came back with a fresh head on his shoulders because that was really a fight, and
Liam Shez gets moo-botted. He gets moo-botted just for doing the Twitch thing, so we're sorry about that, but don't go too crazy apparently. All right, well this is exciting. I'm glad to see that again, the man who's supposed to be the heavy underdog. You know what he's doing? He's making those heads bounce. Those heads are going back and forth. They are heading in similar directions right now. Ships in the night.
Oh, you stop it.
Oh, you stop it. No, you stop it. You stop it.
Was that pawn E5 hanging after bishop E4?
To the back cave. What does the analysis board say?
I mean, wasn't...
Instead of B6, you're saying?
Yeah, what was happening there?
Is it like a sack? Knight E5, bishop F4, takes F3 takes. Is white getting some sort of pressure or something? I tend to agree with you that this looks like it was a pawn, even if white has minimal compensation. I feel like there's been two games where Duda didn't take the obvious approach, and maybe that's a little bit too much respect for his opponent. I know you said that, okay, that's probably not true. He's a very strong player, but I agree. That actually seemed like a blunder out of the opening from Sergey.
Yeah, but this also looks okay for black. It's like, what's the opening? A Karjakin where white has double pawns.
Yeah.
That's sort of the vibe of this position. You push H4, H5, which tends to be good, but this pawn on C3 is on E5.
And it's a big difference, everyone, because with the pawn on E5, you have this sort of grip pawn structure where both these pawns hold back F7 and G7, which gives white these long-term advantages in the endgame. Hashtag Kramnik Leko 2004 World Championship. Check out the game. But again, chessgames.com, Kramnik Leko. Check it out. I should probably be recommending something on chess.com, but the chess player takes over in me. Chess games is easier to find games. It's the truth.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and you're on fire with your recommendations today with Geller, Fischer.
You know what? I want the people to learn. All right, but seriously, this is a better version for black than you normally see there because of white's lack of structural bindage on the king side.
Yeah, and the good news is for white. The only good news I can think of here is that the white king is very safe. Not that the king is ever in any danger, but having the 4 pawns there provides some extra shelter. But I think that white is doing perfectly fine here. It's not like white's in any grave danger. Well, actually,
wait a second.
Why did you go F5 instead of?
Yeah, did Duda again miss a tactical shot? He's giving his opponent, the benefit of the doubt, but F5 would have been really scary here, right?
Yeah, I agree. With a rook on H1 for sure.
Maybe it's not as strong as we think. If the bishop goes to D3, what the follow-up is, I don't know what it was.
Oh, because knight E5, the rook on D7 was hanging. You're right.
Yeah, so white was okay, but okay, knight D8, you got to guard E6. That makes sense.
By the way, Danny, it's with the white pieces. Karjakin is 4.5 out of 5, and Duda is 4-1.
He's 4.5 out of 5, and we haven't noticed that yet. That must have come from Mr. Klein.
No, it came from Smarter Chess.
What? no kidding. Smarter Chess hashtag competition with Statboy. That's why you should be looking up stats, not at the U.S. Open, Mike.
Hey, oh, Danny, this is reminding me of some Fischer right now. Look at that B5 square. Look at that C4 square.
Oh, I love it. Positional chess at its best.
You know, if that king could be on, you know, in an end game, we trade queens and bring that king in, that would be excellent.
The problem is it's going to be hard to find avenues in. If you could put the king on B5, that's one thing. But, okay. White could play queen e4. Okay, he wants to keep the queens on the board. I'm wondering, who does it favor with the ladies off here? Teach us something, Bobby.
I think black is perfectly content trading off the queens because there's a 3-on-4 majority. Well, it's minority for white. Let's call it from a minority perspective because it's actually black's pawns can't move. They can't mobilize in any way, whereas white can start poking.
Yeah. While you're talking about poking, I was highlighting a knight journey that just might end with Frodo throwing the ring and Mount Doom there, right? This is a journey worth taking. The knight's going to come to b5, and we're going to get mate somewhere on the black king here. I feel it. I'm calling it.
So you're telling Karjakin to don't stop believing in some of these light square weaknesses?
I'm telling you, don't stop believing. I'm telling you, Mr. Frodo, we can't give up now.
You say journey, I got to think, immediately. It just has to happen. But, I mean, this is just so unpleasant for
black.
For black, king d7, knight d6 check would be funny, so that's not going to happen. But it's just nice to show. When
that would be a pin emote waiting to happen. Everyone, knight d6 check. Queen h7. He's poking. He's prodding. I don't even know what the follow up is, but the lady looks good over there. Maybe she flips to h8. No, I was going to say that I didn't know what the follow up was for a good reason because there was nothing there. Play knight a3, Sergey. Do the logical thing.
I guess he's like, well, I can put my knight in a3 and then in b5, but then what?
Okay, the issue really is that this rook on d5 is so solid here and prevents the mating attack that I predicted from happening. But, okay, now that it's happened, okay, knight takes a5 is also on the radar. Watch out for knight takes a5 and queen takes c5 if possible.
That's very interesting. I mean, the knight versus the 3 pawns, the white king is safe. You can start pushing your pawns forward. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of like that.
He's probably calculating it. He's got a minute to do so. Okay. Doesn't go for it. Probably the smarter decision now that the rook is gone, as I said. Eventually we would have this diagonal be an issue. But Karjakin doing what he does best, having an advantage on the clock, poking at weaknesses on both sides of the board.
Queen d3 coming. Just take over the d file.
Well, even this, right? Make Duda have trouble. Bring the knight around eventually. I've been calling for it all day.
Oh, but now black needs to play e5. There it goes, f5, e4. This is actually a problem. You want to blockade the pawn.
Why did he do that? Now he's got to bring the knight to e4, but... Okay, queen g6 makes knight to c4, right? Okay, but now queen e8. He missed queen e8. Owie.
But it's not over yet.
It's got to be over. Queen's coming to d7, coming to c6.
Queen e5. Okay, queen e5 was hanging, but he's just going... For knight d6, yeah, this is...
Going for the net. The queen's coming to c8. And with no time on the clock. That's how the West was won. Wow. All right, well, Karjakin bounces back. We've seen both players have quality games here in the 3-minute portion. Robert, your thoughts right now with a 2-game lead for the Russian?
That was a very important win for Karjakin and a very nice technique there. And he just he had a slight advantage. He kept it growing, kept pieces on the board, made Duda continue to think. And as been mentioned plenty of times, Duda's time management has been an issue. And to be fair, that was a tough position, but he just can't be spending the time that he has if he's trying to stay in this match with Karjakin. He needs to speed up, and he needs to be able to find the correct moves in a shorter period of time because I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, honestly. I really just said nothing. I was speaking in platitudes, and I'm just going to make my point in one sentence. He needs to move more quickly. Done.
Yep. No, you're right, because several of these endgames would have been holdable should he have had more time on the clock, right? So, you're critical, you're being critical of his time management earlier does come back to haunt him, and you're not wrong about that at all, I think.
Yep. And, I mean, people have made a brief comment about who was this. I just saw in the Chess TV chat, James Coleman says Vidit was wasting time in Blitz, but then went to overdrive in the bullet. I mean, he cruised in the bullet.
Yep.
So it is a different game, and perhaps we'll see Duda show off some might there. And I like his position with white in this game. You just have some weak squares that black has to deal with. Knight g5 is an option. Bishop h6 or bishop g5 are both perfectly good moves. Black is not developed fully.
Well, Duda hasn't played as well as Karjakin with the white pieces. He's down 2 games in the match, but he's also played well, given that the score is 4.5, 6.5, and both players getting a lot of wins with white. Maybe Duda's gonna come back and do the same thing right now. I mean, bishop h6, knight g5. This position feels like it's playing itself.
Yeah. And, I have tennis on my mind after going to the U.S. Open, but essentially it feels like they're holding serve with white.
You're right.
And then, with black, they're trying to break, and it's been a hugely difficult task for them both. Okay, so now c5 for black. It's like begging to be played, but then maybe knight g5, and that's sort of the issue is that knight g5, knight g5,
knight g5, just,
bishop c3. Bishop c3, you take and go e5 yourself.
Everything's about undermining this knight here. If you can, you open the diagonal here. That makes sense. But bishop c3 would be met by bishop e5, so maybe you put the rook on e1 first. Rook a to e1 with the threat of bishop to c3. Yeah, he likes it. I like it.
I like it too.
We're all happy.
That's actually a very instructional moment there.
Yeah.
And queen c6 for black. Okay, you threaten a little mate in 1 on g2, but white can always have bishop e4 there. You can't take with the knight.
Can't even move the knight pinned down. That is a problem.
This move is risky.
But it was almost forced. I think rook a to e1 was almost winning. And another move that couldn't be played, everyone, was a move like bishop to e5, because there white would just sacrifice the exchange and then play bishop to c3, once again removing the knight from f6.
Queen takes h5 here. Queen takes h5.
Queen takes h5. Problem book mate. Find it. Find it.
There it is.
Find it.
There it is.
Find it. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it.
That makes me happy.
I love it. It makes me happy because not every day you get a position where all of a sudden those tactical patterns you've been working on since a wee youngin', right? Since a wee lad. You were a wee lad. Remember how I taught you in a chess camp one time?
No, we talk about this every time. I don't remember.
Oh, selective memory. Just like my dad when I talk about my childhood. You're just like my father. Only remember what you want to. Wow.
Sorry.
That was awesome. That was flippin' awesome. Queen takes h5.
That has got to be a confidence boost for Duda because
that's how you win. Now, here's the thing though. You made a point that they're holding serve with white. Somebody is going to have to break with black for the direction of this match to change because right now, if Duda goes down 2 games again, then we've just been here before.
Yeah, I think the real key for Sergey is, okay, well, firstly, we see a French. Let's point that out. We have not seen the French. And I guess Duda is trying to move quickly and close the position and just maneuver and try to outplay Sergey in that way. But, Duda has been mixing it up a little bit. We got some Sicilians, now a French. We've not seen the Polish.
We haven't really seen a French get crushed yet, so that's one thing to mark off our bucket list for this match.
I don't think the French is getting crushed.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, we haven't seen it get crushed yet, and I don't think we're going to see it crushed here. Shout out to DM Captain Obvious, who donates because of the queen takes h5 tactic. If there was ever a tactic worth donating for, you chose a good one. That was awesome. So thank you there for the bits that go to the players. Even if he loses the match, I'll let Duda know that he earned a donation just for that tactic. So
that was awesome. I'm still not over it.
Well, you could just see it coming, right? It was one of those. This is one of those games you try to show kids of how pieces coordinate together and develop toward the king's side, and then you recognize the potential of the 2 bishops, right? Yep. And then you get that rare moment where you actually get to finish off a well-developed attack with a brilliant move. So definitely fun.
And Danny, in terms of doing things that I don't like to do, I kind of like Black's position here.
I know. Suddenly you like a French and you don't know why. It's like an identity crisis.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. But I'm looking at the position and I see this. The queen side is totally closed down and there's only one pair of rooks, which means that it's going to be harder for white to sort of initiate an attack. Black, on the other hand, has this clear target on the c3 square. This knight on c7 may either go a6 to play b4 or go through a8 to b6 to a4.
Which I like better.
Start pressuring the c3 square.
Yeah, followed by queen a5.
Yeah. Look at this. Control over the a file, the only open file on the board. G5 is played both as a move to make progress, but also a bit out of desperation because you're losing on the queen side.
Right. You have no choice. Counterplay comes or you get crushed over here positionally.
Mm-hmm. And so now the option, okay, f7 is hanging. So you have to figure out, do I
Can you afford king e8, or do you just need to go all in, something like queen a3, sacrificing f7 for c3? Normally you'd be frowning upon trading a healthy pawn for a weakness, but because c3 came with pressure to c2, I'm not sure that wasn't the worst idea for black.
Yeah, and here he goes king e8 to keep everything.
Yeah, I think settled. King e8's that's the discipline move you want your students playing, right? Don't trade weak pawns for healthy pawns overall.
Oh, this looks great for black. The knight f5 cannot be kicked.
Yep.
And we'll see. Okay, what is Karjakin doing? Trying to go queen f4 next, and then what?
I'm willing to get the queens off the board. Yeah, queen. I like it. I think just get pressure to c3. In fact, so much so that Karjakin doesn't want to trade.
So do you go queen a2 now? Is that? There it is.
Okay.
And he's just trying to inch his way. Rook a3. If the rook moves, let's say to h1, rook a3 for like queen b2.
I think he might bring the rook to a3 anyway, right?
That's a sad move. Rook c1 is not a move you want to play.
No, very sad pieces. And your plan you highlighted a while ago, this knight eventually coming to a4 is on the agenda.
So do I play queen b2 here? Say knight f5, e takes f5. You've opened up the e6 square for my knight.
Ooh, I like it. That's Bronstein chess for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my best here.
I like queen b2 a lot.
Because I'm worried about knight h4, bishop h4. Now queen g5 is clearly.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the one way this game backfires is if you somehow forget that the dark squares are weak over here and there are some infiltration points. So I think if, he goes for queen b2. I think this is the right idea. The knight will come to e6 if traded, where it guards all the dark squares, maybe goes for f4 and even attacks the white king in some positions. So we like it.
No, this looks great for black. And the real thing is there's no way to make the progress necessary. For example, knight f5, e f5, you need to play queen f4 and e6 in one move. But now if you're queen f4, knight e6.
Even if you take f5, queen takes c3, I think, exactly. and we're sliding. Sliding.
And d4 is hanging, and not now. I can't take it now.
Yeah, queen c8 check would be a problem.
But how to... So maybe rook takes c3 is better.
Rook a1?
Rook a1 is... b4 can't be too terrible unless I'm getting mated.
The main thing you're worried about if you're black is white finding a way to swindle a perpetual, whether it happens with h6 opening up the f6 h8 diagonal, whether queen f3 to d5 comes in. So he plays b4, but it's a little slow if Karjakin can do what he does with things like h6 and create counterplay. Yeah, actually. Yeah, what if he does that and starts attacking? What in the world just happened there?
So
I was highlighting h6 for counterplay, but who's winning now?
I'm starting to like white because I don't know how you're going to protect your king over there. Like, what move do you make here?
I think white's winning. I don't see how you stop rook takes h6.
Yeah, this is weird. Okay,
how did that happen?
Rook a7 is trying to rook e7 and then like shelter himself, like run his king. And the thing is, black does have this passed b pawn, which is incredibly difficult to stop.
Yeah, but now the whole nature of the game has changed. This is more of a traditional French where white's mating attack is what matters.
Bishop g5, doesn't that just win?
Bishop g5, knight can't take it because mate on c8. But this is also strong. We highlighted this earlier that d5 is a problem. And now, by the way, you can't even take on d4 because rook h8 comes with check first, and then queen takes g5 comes with tempi.
Yeah, this looks...
I think he's just busted. Something like queen to g4, guarding d7, rook h8 is mate. He goes for it. I like it.
So could he be on king d8, bishop g5, of course. Why is the... Okay, so mate on c...
This makes sense. The queen's coming to c8.
King c6, yep, queen
no
a8.
way. No way you're getting out of this. Wow.
Yeah, the problem is the queen's so out of play. It's just so out of play here.
It's not even one of those positions where the knight, normally a good defender, can do anything to hold.
No, this is terrible.
Okay, last available try was a perpetual if Karjakin didn't play the right move, but he did. Again, white holds serve, and again, we're right where we were, right? Neither player getting wins or even really holding draws right now is black, right? White is good. Remember wherever all those books like black is okay? What about white is winning in the French?
Yeah.
When is someone just going to publish the title with the most truth? White is winning in the French.
White was not winning in that front, that's for sure. I think something went wrong for Karjakin out of the opening because Duda seemed to equalize and then some quite easily. But, of course, well, the result held for Sergey. And they've still only had one draw total, which is just crazy considering they played 13 games. And look at Duda mixing it up. He's not playing e4 this game. Instead, just plays knight f3. And sort of
a little new. I'm actually kind of curious on that because he's been scoring as White, maybe getting a little tired of the Berlin. Thank God, right? About time somebody got tired of it. Knight c3. That's a slightly unique way to develop in this type of Catalan structure. I guess the pawn on d3 is different, though, right? Not the traditional pawn on d4.
Yeah, and Black can't play c5 like you want to because b5 hangs.
Yep.
And if you play b4 ever, you're going to be left with some clear vulnerability on the light squares when knight b4. So now knight d2 sort of speaks to me. Still can't play c5. That's the nice thing.
Tom Petty, Diamond member. First of all, great name, great artist. Rest in peace. But not the best comment. He says, insane comment. Obviously, my comment about the French. If it's so bad and White is winning, why do GMs like Akobian and Volkov play the French almost exclusively?
Well, firstly, I'm pretty sure that Akobian switched away from the French.
I was going to say, I'm going to let you handle this one.
Yeah, he plays the Karjakin very frequently now. He does still play the French. But that's not, I don't know how to respond to that. They both are very good players. And they are true to their opening, but that doesn't...
It doesn't mean the opening's good, so...
Yeah, go do this Google search. Go in your browser,
yep.
Search Caruana, that's Caruana, and then look up Akobian as Black, and look what happened at the U.S. Championship.
Well, that's a good reason why we don't play it at the highest level, but okay, let's keep it on track here, because we can go down that road a lot. All right, anyway... We do appreciate the support, though, but doesn't change our feelings on the French Tom Petty. As much as I love that you'd be free-falling right now.
Yep.
Love it.
But he won't back down, Danny. That's
you know what? He's not going to back down, even if he's free-falling. And help me.
No, I'm not helping you. I'm letting you free fall.
Yeah. The move b4 comes, undermining. We have a pin.
And this is the annoying thing about having the Black against any Catalan. Okay, this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But having Black in these kind of setups, it's like, okay, I did everything the books told me to. I put my queen on b6. I coordinated my rooks towards the center. Everything seems right. But then I still have to worry about some weak pawns in the position. So...
Yeah, the one counter argument is if all that happens with these pawns is a trade... and you're not able to win the b5 pawn, then, Black has a passed b pawn, and your majority isn't as effective over here in the center. But I agree with you. It feels like even moves like rook a1, switch the queen to the b file. If we can target the b5 pawn and win these two for just the single pawn, then White's just much better. This is what Duda will try to do here. I want to play queen b2, but then you take with tempo. I can't. How do I get the pressure I need against the b5 pawn? Karjakin getting counterplay on the c file. We talked about maybe Duda having a chance to hold serve in the last game as Black, or at least maybe break serve using our reference, but maybe Karjakin is going to be the one that does so. This looks really tricky for White. What do we do here?
Yeah, it looks kind of dangerous, actually. I don't really see how to protect everything because pawn takes c5. There's problems, like you said, right down the c file. d3 can be targeted as well, like b takes c5, knight c5. It's queen b1, giving up the b4 pawn. I think this is a good decision.
Yeah, because if takes, you can play knight a2, right? That's got to be the idea.
Yeah, and Black gets these doubled passed b pawns. But at the same time, they're going to be targeted, and White has a very strong center. So that's good news. And Jan Bargeman looked at the game Caruana Akobian and said that was a massacre. And I was like, yep, exactly. So, okay, queen b3, queen b3.
Got to trade. Black's going to try to come into c2 at some point. No. Ooh. Look at that. The maneuvers continue.
I like it.
I like it.
You like it.
Mikey likes it.
Is that Mike Klein on Mikey now?
No, just the reference to the old commercial.
Well, I don't know it, so I'm sorry.
According to Mike Klein, speaking of Mikey behind the scenes, says White has won 7 games in a row now. So we're not exaggerating in terms of what we've said about White holding serve and where this is headed, because right now, Black has yet to prove that he is okay. He or she is okay.
Yeah, wasn't 95? Okay.
No, but even this still feels good for Duda, because the B pawn feels like much more of a target than an asset at this point. And again, if it can be corralled without counterplay getting too much on the D file, White should be better.
But the B pawn's really annoying.
It is annoying.
I thought he could have went knight e5 and at the very worst brought his knight to c4, let's say, or try to bring his rook to a7 and just.
In which position here?
Instead of, I don't remember.
Instead of rook d to c1, knight e5, knight c4. Okay, I'll buy it. Yeah, that might have been better.
And just try to go rook a7 and try to play like that, because now it looks like White's a little bit on the defensive here.
Yeah.
Okay, knight c2 now is a threat, hitting the rook and the b pawn, but rook c3 stops that threat, and after knight c2 there's queen a4.
And I can't even play knight e2 because d3 falls, so you got to go to c2.
Oh, queen a4 is there knight takes b4? Knight b4,
queen
queen
knight
d1,
takes
rook
b4.
Wait, yeah, and then queen d1, rook d1, bishop b4, rook b1, and they're bishop.
Whoa, bishop takes e4. Wasn't looking for it. Pawn is pinned. You couldn't take it because the queen would trade and c2 fell.
This is a problem.
That's a nice trade for Black. Getting rid of that pawn for the b pawn means that the long diagonal is forever open.
Whoa, this has to lose a piece. Queen b7 check.
Queen b7.
Oh, queen f3 was possible.
Okay. But still, d3's falling here, and this is the kind of game that Black can push forever for a win because the knight is so much better than the bishop with everything on one side of the board. Time being the one thing that could probably make this game go wrong here for Black.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Honestly, but no, this is like, what a brilliant transition. This move, bishop takes e4 by Karjakin, was a great find.
And the streak may be over.
Yeah, we might be getting a win as Black.
So
Queen f3, only 1 second for Duda. Finds the move rook d4. He's living off the increment, living on the edge.
Oh, he made it with no time left.
Literally no time, but it didn't matter because it lost a piece. And Duda.
Both of them are about to lose on time, so this is.
No, but. Oh, rook a1, he missed queen a1! Oh my gosh! Every time it's over! And now Karjakin only has 1 second.
Wow!
Oh my gosh! He's got rook g1. Karjakin barely defending now on the clock, literally living on the increment. That was 0.1 second.
This is unbelievable.
This has been a super crazy turnaround.
Queen f3
Queen
check.
f3 check. No, he wants to get the ladies off.
Okay, but now this is probably a draw. H4.
H4, knight e2 check.
King e4.
King e4, and he gets out. He can trade on g5 and then play f4.
King e6. Go. Run, Forrest. This is so confusing.
Wow.
I don't know how to feel right now.
You know, they have therapists for those sort of things when you don't know how you feel.
King e4.
He's got check. King e3.
Oh, no h4. Rook f8. Okay, I think White's winning.
It's got to be winning now. The knight is just no match for the rook in this type of open board. Very nice technical move. Wow. White has won 8 games in a row.
That was ridiculous.
Everything was headed Sergey's direction, and then rook a1 was played, and the crowd went wild.
I mean, I almost jumped out of my chair. Firstly, there was over 5,000 people.
I know I took a lot of heat for calling the blunders by Dominguez Perez, and I swear I didn't say rook a1 this time because of it. I saw rook a1 coming, and I was about to say, well, he better not play rook a1. Boom. Wow.
Oh, that is fortune. So, I mean, off the top of my head, Duda has received 2 very fortunate wins. That one where he was dead lost, and that one with rook f4 check and Karjakin blundering this rook f8, rook h8 stuff in game 2. So 2 very fortunate wins for Duda. Of course, he's had some great positions that he's also squandered. So it's not like it's Karjakin will be crushing him. No, this has been a very even matchup, and I think the score pretty accurately describes what's been happening.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who thought that this was going to be a runaway match, including yours truly, I mean, on the record or off the record as a commentator, I'm not really supposed to give my opinion. But I mean, I think for many reasons, Karjakin has been considered the heavy favorite, not just because of what we know he's capable of. He's a former World Blitz champion, and made it to the semifinals last year. But he took care of both of his first 2-round opponents, who were Georg Meyer and Jan Nepomniachtchi, respectively, in cleaner fashion than he's currently being able to play against Duda. Right? I mean, those matches were runaways for Sergey, honestly.
Yep.
But not today. Not today, Junior. Not today, Junior.
Yep. And right now, I mean, look at this position. Look at that bishop on c2. Does that look like a good piece to you?
I mean, why would you ask me something like that?
Well, I just want to know how you feel about it. I want your honest feelings.
All I know is when I get this feeling, I need.
Yeah, I'm not.
I need chess. I need chess Ewell healing. Thank you for bringing me the chess Ewell healing I've always wanted.
I'm glad you found everything you needed and more.
Yep.
So what's going on here? Endgame looks very good for black, because not only do you have this knight on c5, which is an amazing piece,
hitting b3,
knight on d6, nowhere to go.
Yep.
And if you ever move, I'm taking that knight.
I was going to say that was not ideal for white to let that trade happen. Now we have good knight versus stinky town bishop.
Yep. And look at the pawn structure as well. I see these double pawns for white,
yep,
and immediately think, oh, can I play b6, rook over to h8, g5, h4? And
this is like a dream Capablanca once had, and it had a happy ending. That's all I'm going to tell you. I mean, that's where we're headed right now.
That was an extremely good one.
Capablanca getting excited in the grave right now.
You're a problem. You know that? Yeah, exactly. You're laughing to yourself, but you're an issue. Stop
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of something else that we'll have to talk about later.
No,
but
we're not talking about anything.
Okay. No. We're talking. All right. We are talking.
Okay, young man.
Okay.
So I almost blundered. I went e5.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be less than ideal. There's a pawn hanging there. All right, the king comes to c3. What's Karjakin doing to wiggle his way to another white victory? Rook d4, rook d1, and king b4. There's this outside chance that white's 2-on-1 actually becomes the critical feature here. Okay, outside chance. Rook a8 was strong. A la Capablanca.
King e5.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what happens if white goes f4 check.
Interesting.
Typically not a move you want to play facing this pawn structure in the king
What is
side.
Duda doing with the g? He's just trying to make sure these weaknesses are fixed. Right?
And look at this bishop. I mean, by playing g4, you're saying this bishop is never going to find some life.
Yeah.
So, wait, so gf3, rook g8 is very tempting.
Yeah, even rook g8 first, just to build on the tension first, right?
Yeah.
You have to be worried about a5, but...
Ooh, I don't know about that move.
Well, you know what's interesting is he's pointing out that the knight is doing everything it needs to right now, so that he can switch to the king side and not be worried about counterplay. But we're going to find out if he was wrong about that. I think that was a huge mistake.
So what's it? Oh, a5 comes?
Yeah, and now the rook's coming to h7. And the a pawn is crazy.
So the good news for black is the bishop can't get to that diagonal. So after a6 check, king a8, sure, white can force a draw with rook h7, rook h8, etc. But I don't think Duda's unhappy about a draw. But in this type of endgame, you need to play a6 for white. So king a8 here.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe you'll take on b6. That's actually a big problem.
Yeah, just take on b6 and penetration. It's
well,
coming.
You can't go knight b7 because then there's rook. Okay, the knight's not actually under attack because you take him and I have rook c3 check. So that was the good news.
This is key, everybody, because the knight couldn't go to d7, or sorry, b7 because of rook here. Obviously can't go to d7. So this position is much more on edge for black. And
yeah, but
once again, we should have seen a victory by black, maybe, with Duda having the edge in most of this endgame, but I'm not sure we're going to see a victory by black.
Yep. And
Karjakin down on time for the first time in a millennia.
Did you see John Bartholomew? Firstly, what's up, JB? In the chat, he goes, Duda, where's my car? Oh, gosh.
Pretty sure somebody already made that joke. But
and I'm glad I didn't see it earlier because...
There were some other Duda jokes, but we're not going to go into that Duda.
Yeah, stop it. You stop it, young man.
You stop it. Knight goes back. f4
if
to
the knight comes to
d5.
d5, it's just.
But here comes the bishop to b3, right? Yeah,
Knight,
got to put it there.
d5 check. Knight d5 take. This
It's
is
a
just
draw.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Duda might still be wanting to play for a win here.
That's true, but how do you do that? Because your knight on f4 needs to stay there to protect e6. I guess you can play e5, but something worries me about like trying to prolong this game too much. Maybe e5 is good. The bishop needs to find a way to that light square diagonal, and I don't see how to
Now
do
he
it.
settles. He settles.
It's a safe call. Drawing with black is a good thing in this match because
Well, it'll be the first time white hasn't won in, like we said, a really long time. Although let's not speak too soon, because I don't think rook d2 is the right idea.
No, just play f4. I mean, play d4. I think you give up both of the pawns and.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. Black should not be able to lose this game.
f3.
Yeah.
No, I mean this doesn't matter.
Okay, it doesn't really matter, but the one way this goes wrong is b7. You try to check, but you don't have those stalemate tricks where you sack the rook because you have the extra f pawn. So if white could play b7 and then get the king to b6, black is losing.
Wait a second.
Oh, magoosh.
No, his rook h6. Thankfully, I mean, if he didn't have this
if
idea,
king a5, f3.
Rook h6.
Okay, rook h6, good enough, right? You go to Philidor. Old school Philidor should be a draw. Now the rook comes back. You get the pawns in front, and you flip around, and the king has nowhere to check. So that was instructive. Important to see how black maintained his cool and defended that. So we have our first non-white victory in 9 games. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge save there. Just right now with the white pieces. Okay, he's going with d4 again. So it's Duda switching it up, playing d4. And, well, he needs to play quickly in the opening. Keep the initiative going here. He just made a draw with the black pieces, which is first time in a dozen games. And right now, he's got white. So just start pressing.
I got to give a shout out to Tom Petty, Diamond member. Called him out when I disagreed with his French comment, but he just said, as Steven Tyler said, Duda looks like a lady. Bant. Sorry, Duda. No?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
I'll let it be.
Speaking of looking like a lady, though, we got to go check in with our Twitter contest, a 1-year Diamond membership on the line, everyone. Let's see what the latest tweets are. Where has Sergey Karjakin been put? Luis over there on our Spanish broadcast, he is the best following. He is the most loyal, most amazing following on the internet. We got to scroll really far to see where our contest is. Here we go. A Sergey Princess Leia. That's pretty good. Not sure if it's Diamond membership worthy yet. There we go. It looks like something Sergey would do. Poke around the corner. And there we go. But I want to see Princess Leia playing chess. That's what I want to see. Anyway.
It's just so funny. But in this game, speaking of chess, I'm laughing at all those hilarious images. But here we see that Karjakin with the black pieces set up this queen and bishop on the long diagonal, which is really annoying from white's point of view because you want to play knight d2, but you can't play knight d2 when g2 is hanging. Mm-hmm. If the king was on h2, so king h2 could be a useful move at some point. The king was on h2, you could then play knight d2 because that's bishop g2. You have f3 trapping that bishop in on the g2 square.
And
so
eventually rook g1.
Yeah. He plays knight e1, which is just to get this knight off the f3 square, to play f3 and potentially e4.
But e5 is exactly how you want to target that. And Duda plays bishop 3, almost a bailout move because I don't think white has an edge anymore.
Yeah, and if you do have an edge, it's very, very small. So you're essentially hoping to play against this b pawn.
I've been telling you it's not the size that counts forever. An edge is an edge. Try and get it.
Danny, what am I going to do with you? So let's see.
Takes. It's still an edge.
Yeah, it's one of those annoying edges, especially as the time control shortens, you might struggle with because you have a weak pawn for black, whereas white's pawns are all very nice. So just play queen b4 here or take on e4 first. Try to play the endgame. I'd play queen b4. Try to keep the queens on the board. Because bishop e4... Oh, actually, never mind. Bishop e4, you can't play queen e4 because your rook on d8 hangs. So bishop e4, doesn't that win the b
Bishop
pawn?
e4, knight e4, queen takes b6. I'm wondering what Duda is thinking about, but... Duda comes through. Big Lebowski.
Yep.
Take on b6. The problem is whether there's going to be 7th rank counterplay. Maybe the rook comes to d2, but you got to be super... Okay, he goes for it. I was going to say you got to be super cautious in situations where your own back rank becomes a problem, but he goes for it nonetheless.
So how do you take advantage here? Because
yeah, you
want to be able to put the queen on a square that hits c8, right? So you can get your rook hit.
Right.
But there's nowhere to go.
It's one of those weird positions where human beings should be scared to play moves like rook d2, right? But, like, you know, we said the modern day super GM doesn't have any of those practical fears, right? Because computers would play rook d2. I'm going to play rook d2. I can defend.
Yeah, now how does white go for it? So f3, knight g3. And I'm starting to see ideas with h5, h4.
And mate. Well, there's an immediate fork emote happening in Twitch chat. But h5, h4, cement the knight on g3 and look for things.
I mean, white just has nothing, because if you trade the queens off the board, look at that knight on e1. Where's that going? It's stuck. So I think white is not even better here.
Whew. Queen b8, take g3, but I can't because my rook falls?
Mm-hmm.
It's so scary. So if I can't go queen b8, I can maybe check and then go back to b3, try to force the queens off the board.
Yeah, make queen b3 first. Same idea, just saving the queen b8 check for later. He did.
Yeah, if black blunders and doesn't attack my rook, now I'm winning a piece. Trades. h4, I'm guessing. Put the kibosh on that. Maybe
knight d3 as well.
Knight d3 looks good as well. But he says, no, thank you. Even at the risk of losing the h-pawn, it's interesting, because if e4, knight h4, rook b5, Robert, if you have to play g6 to guard h5, your knight on h4 is actually trapped. In fact, I think he's going to... I like that idea. He's going for it.
Yeah, the knight actually is not super ideal there. Okay, I think black should be okay. Like knight h4, rook c1. He wants to go rook c2 and not lose the g2 pawn.
No, but the knight was on e1.
Yeah, he's making a draw. I don't know.
Huh. I was hoping for white to sort of limp out of that position into an advantage, Kaiser Sose style, but he doesn't do it.
Yeah, it looks like just king d4 here. And
yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
This is like the alternate ending, Usual Suspects, where Kaiser Sose was just nobody. Nothing happened.
Yep. I love that movie, by the way. So thank you for referencing it.
You're welcome. You are welcome.
Great memories. By the way, look.
Uh-oh, f4. He says no. He's only got 12 seconds. I mean, is Karjakin going to push this one now?
Probably.
Right? Why not? With only 9 minutes left, very good chance that this is the second to last 3-minute game we're seeing no matter what the result.
And that was a very necessary pawn push by Duda, because there was threats of rook a2 check, knight e2 to g3 that looked a bit annoying. And now
I think they'll just take a tickle.
Can
I order one tickle, please?
No, but why not knight f5?
No.
Serious question.
Nah.
Wait, but knight f5 that way? I don't know, Danny. That was actually really scary.
The game ends peacefully, despite the best efforts for a decisive result.
Knight f5 was a good move there. I would have played on. I would have tried to, at least.
No, I don't disagree with you. Jokes aside, yeah. Especially given that white was lower on time. So.
Okay, what is this? So if c5, is that the idea for black to go c5? Like, why would you put your knight on b4?
Well, you force the knight to a3, I guess.
But in the Catalan, having a knight there is not the worst thing in the world.
Right.
It's not that menacing, but it's not the worst thing.
No, I agree. It was a weird opening by black. And likely we're headed to getting the white train, the win train back again, right? Because white won. There was 12 decisive games in a row for those of you just joining us, and white won the majority of them. These guys have had a lot of decisive chess today. And now it looks like Karjakin getting the better opening here again as white.
Yeah, slightly better, though at the same time, it's I know John Bartholomew's out there somewhere. What kind of setup does this look like? What kind of pawn structure? Scandy.
Hashtag Team Scandy. That's right.
Yep. And so that means black is extremely solid but lacking space.
Yep.
And so if you're a type of player who likes to cower in the corner and just like let your opponent walk all over you and then eventually survive, this is
I love that not so subtle jab. Oh man, let's hope John is still here. There he goes. Now, John will admit, and we've been telling him this since he was a kid, nobody likes taking abuse more than John. And then somehow working his way out of it. I'll never forget when I was told by the late and great Emery Tate to get in there because the kid needed me.
It's just so like not fun to play as black here, right? You just like have no space.
No.
And you're like,
but
okay.
It's great in blitz because as I've proven, it's really easy to screw up clear edges against John Bartholomew over and over again.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very hard to beat, but the mindset in the Scandinavian is often like, okay,
yeah, you're like, come get me, big boy, come and get me, right? I know I'm worse.
You're like the little kid in the playground who challenges the bigger kid to a fight, then runs in circles and hope that he doesn't catches you. and then when he's really tired, you give him one kick in the shin, and then you run away again. Like that's sort of the mindset I feel like with the Scandies.
Now I hope black wins just for John's sake and just for the fact that we finally get to see a victory for the second player. Because black has not been okay in today's speed chess match.
And so let's see. Bishop takes. Okay, you want to ruin the pawn structure. But this, again, one of those positions where the d4 pawn is a potential target, but black's pawn structure is obviously not ideal. So knight f5. Okay, rook d1.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a comfortable edge for white. Will there be enough? Or will Duda prove Team Scandy proud and just let the structure get better and better for white until eventually somehow white blunders? That's how it feels right now, right?
John's such a nice guy. I feel a little bit bad. No, I don't. Scandy is just
we all know it's about love here. And John, by the way, will be having, while you and I are doing the main coverage of the World Chess Championship this November, we said that John will have a special show that I'm going to predict may end up being one of the most watched things on the web in November, because John is going to be breaking down games on like a real deep educational level, because he's probably the best chess teacher I know. John, I'm just going to say it. He's very good at teaching chess. Robert, you're good too. Calm down. But you're a commentator. You're an entertainer first. John's a teacher first.
I've been trying to teach you to tame your jokes for years now.
Clearly, that's why you're not such a good teacher.
Exactly. So. I failed.
Knight f4. Okay, but again, John, this has got to be making your Team Scandy skin crawl right now, dude. I mean, this is just getting abusive for black.
Well, black's trying to go for some counterplay. Look, things aren't going my way. Let me try to sacrifice my rook for that knight.
And he's going to, but it's over anyway.
Wait a second. Knight f6. Okay, where's that queen going? Back to h3.
Yep.
So rook g5 is better. Queen h3. At what point can I try to sacrifice my pieces? Yeah, so c5 hangs. It's not the end of the world to lose c5, honestly.
Especially the biggest issue is just that positionally black, now white has the pawn and the compensation, right? Even just queen f1, you meet queen e3.
Queen f1, queen e3, queen f2, queen takes f4. So watch out.
Oh, I missed that very night. Oh, he falls for it! You freaking called it! You freaking called it! Oh my god! That's how black wins in the Scandinavian. Take note, everybody. That right there is how black wins in the Scandinavian.
Oh, boy.
And somehow, some way, I knew black was going to win this game. Black was almost 2 points worse in that position, if you want to give an evaluation on it. And suddenly, the position is crazy. By the way, white has rook d4 in this position. Is it that clear? Oh, he just played king f1. White... Okay, analysis time. White had rook d4.
Oh, wait a second. Rook d4 looked kind of nice there.
Queen e5 and then f4.
Yep. That was a missed opportunity. He was so shocked that he
was so... And again, just the Scandy strikes back.
Yeah, after Queen
Unbelievable.
he might have had to play like knight e4 or something just to like survive. But
Yeah, I think it was probably close to equal, but the point is that white wasn't losing.
No, yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. Well, now we're gonna have a tied match unless something goes. I mean, we said it earlier, and then Karjakin blundered a rook on a1.
Right.
So.
But here, if black finally gets a victory, it'll be the first time. I mean, I guess Mike Klein will come up with a stat here. It'll be the first black victory in a really long time, and we're gonna have a tied match, which nobody would have called. So, and probably it'll be tied head into bullet, which will be for the second time in history, right? We just talked about that we had only had one other tied match, and then Vidit ran away with it against Zavin Andreassian.
Yep.
But
wow, I just still can't believe it. And I love how it's like fake credit to the Scandi because like, oh, the Scandi won the game. No, it had nothing to do with.
This is a lot like how the French wins. It's just
exactly.
It's just hilarious.
All right, so
okay, black should win this. That's all that should happen here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what instructional point to make, and I'm struggling because it just looks so easy for black. I mean, he's being slow progress. He has to watch out for his clock, which he's doing a pretty good job of right now. Playing a5, a4 was a great idea just to create a clear weakness to attack. And so he puts the pawn on b3, and play rook b5. Now he can play rook to b4 with the check, and then rook to g6. It's,
come on, come on, black. Get a victory.
Rook g6 check. Oh, no. Okay, knight e4 is juicy. Maybe
I keep asking for stats, but then making fun of him, so Mike Klein wants me to get smarter chess to be stat boy since I love him more anyway, Dad. But no. We love you, Mike. And black's about to get that first victory that we talked about. And I think it's probably going to be enough to get another 3-minute game. Just we're getting so much extra chess today. Because black is about to win this one. Sergey playing on for kicks and giggles at this point. I mean, it's just over.
Yeah, just have to be careful not to blunder your pawn. But rook b5 check, there's knight c5 or king d6.
Knight d6. And it's over.
Yeah. It'll be a resignation soon. King e5.
Maybe Karjakin trying to play him. Maybe he wants to get to bullet. Only a few more seconds, actually, and he gets to bullet.
Do you think he knows how much time is left?
I don't know if it's match strategy or not, but he's about to force this match into bullet if that's what he was trying to do. My guess is no, and he just believes there's outside chances of a blunder because he's not wrong, right? But I'm gonna look at Duda's. I mean, at this point, the game's not ending in 10 seconds. I'm guessing, unless he resigns right there. I thought he was about to.
What's Duda's bullet rating here? I'm trying to find that right now.
Yeah, he's been playing a lot on the site. He played in the title Tuesday this week, and just like
his bullet is 3,000.
That's it. This game doesn't count. We're gonna abort it. The time ended.
Yeah,
or
time
did it
is
count?
over.
Okay, we have a judge for this reason who's not me. Okay, the judge says yes, it's time for bullet, and that's why we have a judge, so that we can just be commentators and let's go bullet. Black just got his first victory in however many games Mike Klein's about to tell us. We have our next 3-minute break, so don't go anywhere. And for the second time in Speed Chess Championship history, the match is tied hitting to bullet. Last week, there was a blowout, even though the match was tied hitting to bullet, Robert. I have no idea what we're about to see, but we're going to be right back and figure that out. Stay tuned. All right. Well, right as we get started for bullet, and we still have so many of you with us, more than 6,000 of you tuning in, as you should be. It is a tied match with the underdog maybe pulling a huge upset. But tomorrow, we have Giri versus Mohamed Yarev. All 6,000 of you should be here, and your friends and cousins and best friends, lawyers, uncles, roommate. And if you're not, we're coming after you. Robert, here we go. Let's get the party started. 30 minutes of bullet underway, I think.
I'm ready to get jiggy with it.
Yeah.
And I see it 8.5, 8.5. And right now, it's starting. We see resorting back to a Berlin for Karjakin. And, well, we'll see if Duda has what it takes because he's clearly a very talented bullet player. They're actually about the same rating. It's to 29.93. But Duda not always the quickest in the blitz portion in the opening segment. Here he's playing instantly, which is obviously important.
Yep. More time on the clock than they started with, both of them.
And I'm actually just telling Danny, I was telling some of the prognosticators that I told them that this match would be extremely close. People were thinking that Karjakin would be the heavy favorite. And yes, maybe he is the favorite, but I thought it would be a good battle indeed. And right now, this is what we've seen. In fact, this was from
we saw this structure earlier, right?
I don't remember what game it was, but we definitely saw this earlier. The pawn went to c4, and white played just like this. Eventually went h4, and the pawn made its way to h5 at some point. So looking solid. Isn't this exactly what we've seen? I don't think anything has changed.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the game where we were first sort of semi-critical of white giving black the d-file and the pawns being stuck, but he was eventually able to figure out h5 and g4, and this game, Karjakin says no thank you on that with the move g6, so that's key.
So, but now some of the dark squares are a bit vulnerable. You can play knight to g5 at some point to protect your e5 pawn first. My point was that if I can play rook a to e1, then knight to g5, if you trade on g5, I put my bishop on f6, then I play g4, h5, etc. So you have to be very, very careful here if you're black. And he did play rook a e1. Slight time advantage for Karjakin. Well, in 10 seconds, it's not slight at all anymore. And we'll need to see what black has in store, because a3 stops b4, saying if you go b4, I'll take a takes b4, trade those a pawns, and then come after your c4 pawn. And that's what he's still going for here. Rook d3 is nice to ready.
Tonight is the night. Today is the match where two heads become one, Robert. You can't even see the difference between those two on the graph. That's how close this match has been, despite Karjakin being so heavily favored. Just had to show that.
Yep. And
crazy.
I'm just reading a comment from an upset commenter on Twitch saying, upset that we're saying how close the match is going to be when it literally is 8.5 and tied. So that's an interesting moment to get upset about us match. Anyway.
All right, well, only the fun thing about this is exactly the Berlin we saw when both players had 4 minutes on the clock. Now they've got 15 seconds, so how will they handle it? It looks like Duda is going to get his plan first. I feel like Harry is, like we said.
Wait, why did he do that? I think he blundered. I think he wanted to go rook h2, and he blundered the h4 pawn. And they both missed it.
Rook h4 was hanging the whole time. If black had traded, he could have just taken on h4.
Exactly, and now that h-pawn is about to run.
Okay, he's going to trade once and then h5.
Yep.
Black can get the king in front of it, though. King f8, g8 to h7. He agrees with this idea. The problem is...
Bishop e1. You have to play a move like bishop e1 and hope that
he takes b4. I think he wants to go for a mating net at some point with bishop h4, bishop f6. Ooh! But maybe Karjakin gets the mate first. Knight f5 check?
Knight f5 take on c5.
Oh, you just take on c5. I forgot.
Wow,
that was attacking the bishop.
So bishop f4. Okay, rook h5 also possible. And I guess his idea is that if you take on g3... Wait a second.
Only
h4.
Only 5 seconds. He just missed it. Karjakin just missed this. Dude, are we about to see... Is this really about to happen?
Well...
I mean, like, seriously. I mean, given that we've never really seen an upset of this magnitude in the Speed Chess Championship, and given Karjakin being so heavily favored as a potential winner of the whole thing, honestly, many people's pick along with Hikaru Nakamura to make the finals.
Yep.
This would be the upset for the ages. Call your friends. Tell your mom that you're busy watching games on Twitch. Like, Mom, I'll take out the garbage in a minute. I'm watching Twitch.
Nice. I like your little Will Ferrell reference.
Stop with the video games. I'm not playing video games, Mom. I'm watching chess.
Danny, speaking of chess, we see another French. How do you feel about it?
I think it's really bad for black, but he'll probably win.
It's actually, this type of position is quite interesting because the position is very locked up, right? White has the advantage on the queen side in that you have a little more space, and the center of the pawn e5 looks good, but you're sort of stuck. And here's what White's doing, playing for g4. If black ever tries, black should try to play b5, a5. I don't know there we go. Just go for it.
He's got to play for b5 and a5. But Karjakin has really put himself in a position where now Duda believes he can do it, right?
Yeah.
This is the position you don't want to put underdogs in, where they actually think they can win.
Absolutely. And now if the knight goes to c5, you have to chop it off. And do you play b4 here? Do you play a5 first? Okay, bishop d7, that of course makes sense. You got to keep your king protected. And if you protect your king, look at that pawn f4. The bishop on d2 is stuck protected.
Very weak, yep.
And importantly, the bishop on e2 needs to jump over to g4 in one move. But it takes some time to play knight where?
If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're talking good about the French here.
Well, I'm talking about this specific position, certainly not the opening.
Yep.
And, it's difficult for white here because, okay, well, now I don't know how. So rook h5, I guess, only move. And how do you continue this attack? Very nice defensive setup here for the moment for black. Bishop e8 can come into the game at some point soon. b3 just...
Yeah, the pawns on the queen side are just running wild.
Wait, take that on a2 maybe. Take on a2 and play queen b2? Is that...
Yeah, he's sitting on the structure, which also makes sense, just because white can never really take without giving black two passed pawns over here. But I agree, taking and playing queen to b2 is the other perhaps more aggressive approach.
You got to hate to have this pawn structure from white's point of view. I mean, look at this; it's menacing. But at the same time, you actually can't promote any of your pawns with that bishop on b1. So you might think about playing bishop d1 to c2. All right, he's first closing everything up. So it takes
on h4. He has bishop into f3 at some point.
Yep.
Okay, f4 is weak. But again, the thing that's been interesting is the time scramble, right? At this point, you've got Karjakin way down on the clock.
Wait, this is not a good transition.
Not at all.
King g8 to f7 coming.
My earpiece is falling out.
Well, it's okay because it's the game. This game is over at this point. Just take it and go king f7. Take bishop d1, bishop c2. Actually, you don't want to play bishop c2 yet. There's no reason to. Take on f6. He's going to trade on f5. That's smart.
Very nice.
With that passed b pawn.
The b pawn is going to be all that matters.
Yeah, rook e7. Okay, I read that. He's just swinging his rook around.
It's over. And with no time on the clock and a b pawn to deal with, Karjakin is going to be down 2 games in bullet. And after black not winning any games and Duda not having a lead in the match since game 4, he's about to have a 2-game lead in bullet.
Yep. This is pretty huge. And those pawns are not being stopped.
This is amazing. This is an upset like I could not have predicted. And
I don't want to say it again, but I've been sticking up for Duda this whole time. So
you have. I mean, Duda is. We know his potential. We know that he's a rising star, but there's no way that even with the potential there that most people are going to be seeing Sergey Karjakin leave in the first round of the SCC. So no way.
Yep. And okay, we have another exchange Spanish position. This time the queens have not been traded so early. And what black wants to do is unravel on the king side and get the piece developed fully. King h1 was a nice move to include. That way you can avoid bishop h3 with a pin on the g file. And after these ideas with f5, this was just played. Okay, f3 is solid. That way if you take on e4, I take with my knight, get development going. And, here, a5, like not an idea you want to play from black's point of view because queen a6 comes with the check, and it looks like a very shaky queen side. In fact, I would think of playing rook to b1, and the idea being at some point I want to play queen a6, sacrifice my knight, and play b4 and just blast open the position. So here, okay, just continues making progress in the center, but Karjakin doing very well to shore up that queen side.
Well, and really for the first time, he's playing much faster here, up on the clock.
Yeah.
So
that's very big. And I mean, his position is just great now.
Plenty of time still, with 20 minutes in the total match. I mean, there's no way that this match is probably ever going to be out of the range of either player winning it, given how close it's been. But with Duda winning 3 games in a row, Karjakin has to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, and I don't love what's happened here for white, because I thought that there was some initiative to be had on the queen side and to try to play for an attack and maybe sacrifice a piece. But again, they're not my pieces, so it's easier for me to just throw them away. But right now, it looks like black has formed a stable blockade, and g5, and just start pushing on the side of the board. And the bishop on b7 is a monster. The king side looks like it's collapsing for white. This knight on c1's not doing anything.
Time for Karjakin to strike back, just like Princess Leia would.
I was waiting for the moment you would say that, and you found a very good time to do so. So I gotta give some more props.
Yeah, it looks like he's look for this knight to move, and then for this diagonal become 99 problems.
And diagonals are multiple.
Multiple of them. A girlfriend ain't one, but the diagonal is.
This is a nice attempt to blockade that diagonal.
Yeah, it is though. He's gonna play knight to g2. Ooh, queen f1. But now here comes bishop h4.
And bishop h4, I'll play knight g2 and just kick the bishop away.
No, there's no way white's holding this. Really? Okay, now I thought bishop h4 would have been stronger.
Trade queens. And can play king g3.
Bishop h4 has to be played. There you go.
Yeah,
you can just take and play e2. Take and play e2, right? Oh, e6! And he has to get back. He brings the king over, but now you can take and play e2, right?
Yep, absolutely.
He's taking his sweet time, but it's irrelevant because why didn't he take and play e2 a move before?
He missed it, and now knight c2 check and win e3. Uh-oh.
Oh my God! Karjakin could have just taken and played e2 but when the king was on g1.
Yep.
What in the world?
Everything going south for Sergey.
Everything going south for Sergey today. This has not been the same level of chess we're used to seeing, but that's what happens, right? I mean, clearly he's rattled.
They both missed e6. Oh, and there's some sirens.
And there you go. And apparently someone missed out on proper safety measures because there goes an ambulance.
Well,
here comes e6.
You can't go e7 because your knight in c3 is hanging.
Yeah, but you're going to find a way to do it.
e7, bang.
It's just ridiculous to me what's happening here.
And also, Sergey missed that instead of bishop g2, he could have played bishop g4 to h5 to stop that pawn from queening. So, like, literally every decision.
Not the best chess we've ever seen from Mr. Karjakin. And you called it. You said that he hasn't been in great form, didn't play well in the Singfield Cup, didn't defend positions that we are accustomed to seeing. Although it looks like he did just defend this one to a draw. But, or I think so. I think he's defending this.
Yeah, the white king will go to the corner, and then he'll sacrifice his knight for the f pawn.
Yeah.
So king, yeah.
Okay, Sergey's just going to allow it because what's the point in fighting? Although now you have to be careful because he's just going to sacrifice the knight for the f pawn. Okay, yeah.
In fact, it's a stalemate. That's hilarious.
Insta draw, as they say. Just add water. Insta draw. Boom.
Yep.
Okay, but that was Sergey Karjakin's game to win as black. Easy win with trading and playing e2. Right? We weren't crazy about that. Misses that, misses several other chances at the... Wow.
This has been his moment, Duda. You know, it's just...
Yep. Mom spaghetti.
You know, Karjakin really should have something in positions like this where white is just pushing through attacking possibilities. And I like his decision to take with the d pawn.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to plant his knight on the d4 square at some point. Wait, what's going on here? Knight d4. If knight d4, pawn d4, the a5 pawn falls, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, no, this has got to be better for white. Somehow that did not go well with the pin action. For those wondering, again, why we've been talking so much about why this is such an amazing upset, going to be the biggest in SEC history if Jan-Krzysztof Duda can hold on. I mean, nothing explains it better than our odds graph, and you see the different direction that those two projected finishes are going as far as the underdog really just showing that not everything is about ratings on paper. Sometimes you have it on a day and you don't. And Sergey hasn't had his best chess, but Jan-Krzysztof has had some awesome chess. So, great stuff. Although I feel like Sergey's going to get this one. I like g4, Robert, especially with this rook on a3, spying the elevator, take the lift to the h-file.
Yep.
And super dangerous things happening over there.
And it's, white is the one who could push two past pawns. The e pawn, if things get traded, or the b pawn, whereas black has this a and c pawns that are totally blockaded for the time being.
Yep.
I think Duda's putting a pretty stubborn defense here, though. This bishop on d7 is really nice to hold the a4 pawn down. I guess you could swing the bishop to d1 if you're white and say, I'm just going to go try to gobble up that.
Yeah, he wants to swing the queen, I think, over to this diagonal and hit d5. I actually really like this plan by Sergey. Put the queen on g2. It hits d5.
And then bishop d1. Bishop d1 wins a4.
Bishop d1 gobbles up. We didn't see it, or he does, and he knows he has plenty of time. Plays bishop to c3. Now he can play bishop d1. It's only a matter of time before that pawn falls. Bishop c2. And then bring the queen to f3 and d1.
And then bishop d7. It's actually surprisingly tough.
b5. He just missed it. It's a double attack.
Oh, boy.
Queen to b1. Hit f5 and threaten b5. Karjakin will strike back. And, we were... What? I was going to say, we were in the range of almost potential mathematical danger for Sergey, because if Duda won this game, right, then he would have been up 3 games with less than 15 minutes left. But it looks like Sergey will get his first victory in the bullet portion.
Huge win for Sergey. I mean,
huge.
Tremendous.
Assuming he pulls it off. At this point, it would be the most shocking thing of the match so far if he didn't. But it looks like he should. Queen to c1 check. Bishop f1, okay, doesn't matter. And now rook a1.
Yep.
Good enough.
Trading queens, not going to help the cause.
Look at Duda playing this one out. Probably match strategy at this point. He has to know that he's in the driver's seat and is on his way.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy conversion at this point. But you're right, match strategy. Just make sure that you kind of lower the clock. Say to Karjakin, you're still down a game. I get the white pieces in the next one, and Karjakin needs not to lose this one.
Yeah,
you can't cut the lead to 1 and then lose the next game.
We're making sure the players are aware, with only 12 minutes and 45 seconds left, what the situation is with every game, and I think they know that when they see that little number next to their avatars. They know it's a very close match overall, but making sure they're also aware of the time, right? This has been a much more exciting match than we thought to be, and at this point, we wouldn't be surprised to see the most amazing upset.
Yeah. And, I mean, look at this. Karjakin getting into a Spanish where black has slightly less space. White can move pretty easily. But I really think from Karjakin's point of view, he'll just be happy not to lose, because both sides have been winning with white in all of their games.
Yep.
And so just holding is just such a tremendous thing. And I compare it to tennis, and it really, wait a second. D5 coming? No, there's a bishop on D7 that stops me from playing D5 like I want.
But the only counterpoint to that is, at this point with the match strategy, every game taking a lot of time off the clock here. I mean, this is, you want to get victories if you're Sergey. You're right. Holding a draw with black here, you assume he's going to get more chances with white, but okay. I'm nervous. I don't even know why. It's butterflies. Butterflies.
I have none of those. I'm just, trying to figure out a way to break through for either side, because right now it's one of those tense positions. No pawns have been traded. If you ever take on e5, you open up the d file, and black is the one who's primed to take over that one. If you ever take on d4, you give white great control over the center. So he trades a pair of knights on h5. And here for white, you can consider playing d5 now, because the knight is no longer protecting that d5 square. You have to think about how does that impact the game if c5 would have been played for d5. So instead he plays c4, and now queen to b2.
But positionally, the b pawn seems to be an easier one to target than the c6 pawn. Although, okay, watch out now with the queen on the f file. There's always tactics.
Well, the e5 pawn is weaker than the e4 pawn.
Okay, good point. Yeah,
pawn probably weaker than the b4 pawn, just because it takes some effort to put black's pieces over to the b4 square.
No, you're right. Went a different direction. I was thinking, I really like this g4 idea. Where's my g4?
I don't like this decision.
Where's my g4 emote? There it is.
A very dangerous decision by Karjakin, because opening the g file, yes, it will benefit him if he can get his a rook to g6, let's say, or get to the h file. But right now, if that knight moves itself from f3, rook g3 is a threat. So knight h2 here is...
Knight h2, really good move. Here comes rook to g3, you're right.
And rook g3, Coming.
Huh. Surprised he didn't play rook g3 first.
So rook.
Because now...
Okay. Watch out for knight e2 check. So that's a threat.
Now the simplification... Okay, queen h5. The b6 pawn is pushing.
Queen h2.
There's a threat of rook g8 here.
Yeah, so I want to go queen h2, and if queen h2, but there's queen d1. There's still queen d1. There's no.
So this queen is now putting pressure on the e5 pawn. That's
nice move, g3.
G3, and here
Gives
comes the b pawn. Black probably doesn't have time for h5 and h4 anymore.
Queen e5 check. Queen e5 check.
Queen takes c5. He just blundered it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! 9 minutes.
Nerves of steel.
2-game lead. Duda is... Tell you what he's not full of.
You're so ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, he is on fire right now. This is ridiculous.
Danny, what do you make of this decision to keep going back to this French that has given White a nice positional looking advantage every single time? King E2, a mouse slip.
Mouse slip by Sergey. He is on full tilt right now. I never thought I'd say it. I mean, Sergey's supposed to be the guy who doesn't go there. He doesn't get on tilt. You don't tilt Sergey. He's the Teddy KGB of the Speed Chess Championship. But guess what? Reference. Guess what he's doing right now?
He's getting rounded up.
You know what happens at the end of that movie? Teddy KGB finally goes on tilt.
I mean, yeah. I made a response that you missed. Never mind.
I heard it. He got rounded up. I heard it. Yeah, don't ever question your father's love for you.
Oh, you're not my dad. Please don't ever say that again.
All right.
So, okay, White got nothing.
White got nothing because he mouse slipped King E2, King F2. That's why he got nothing. Oh my God. No, but seriously, if Duda can just, I mean, look at him just close it up. If he wants to go Sasha Grishik on this, he could probably make this game last for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, right? This is ridiculous.
Just play bishop e8. Do nothing.
You can just do nothing and take 10 minutes off the game clock. This could be the match right here.
Just take on g5 like rook h7, or is he not going to do that?
He should. Yeah, and he is.
Yep.
Okay, you take with the f-pawn, that's like his best chance, because now he can use the f4 square and maybe manufacture h5. You got to get some strategic, dynamic imbalance here, but this is just crazy.
It does look good for White, but it'll take a lot of time to actually, really make progress.
You know what he should do if you're Sergey? Play 50 moves as fast as you can, and claim a draw.
That's hilarious.
I mean, seriously, like right now he's losing the match because too much time is going to come off the clock and he's down 2 games. He has to win this one and win again to send it to overtime before the clock runs out.
And what, there's like 6 minutes and 40 seconds left, so he does have time for 2 more games after this. So you're right, he just needs to get this game. Well, actually, knight f6.
Knight f6 looks pretty good for White.
Knight f6, rook h3, trade everything on h3.
So, but he's in mathematical must-win terrio. Must-win terrio. I just said terrio. God loves a terrier, as they said. Best in Show reference. You don't know that one?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, Christopher Guest, dude.
Wait, bishop takes d5 here? Does that work?
Winning.
Bishop g3 first. Play bishop g3 and then take on d5.
Just so you can have the threat of e6 with the bishop on the diagonal. Yeah,
yep,
he does
play
it.
Take and then queen d6 check, and then e6 and just...
Yeah, okay. Karjakin has to win this game, though. We are in if a blunder happens, it's over.
Knight takes d5. He missed knight takes d5 as an option. Because the problem was the queen trade would not have been good for...
He's just missing tactics everywhere, man.
Yep.
Sergey is just not in best form, and he's running out of time to find it.
Okay.
Still has knight takes d5. There you go.
Finally.
There you go. Now you take, queen d6 check.
Oh, and Sergey has 2 seconds left. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, no, he's way down on the clock. He should be able to gobble everything. Only 1 second, though. Check it all. Is he just going to take a draw? He can't afford to take a draw. He has to win this game.
Yeah, he has no time, though.
He has no time, though. But he has to win. Okay, now he goes for it, but it's not enough.
No, it's losing.
Bishop e5 is the only move now.
King f7.
This is it. We are witnessing the first upset, the first serious upset in Speed Chess Championship history.
Yep. Look at those pawns go. Wait, but d5 here. Oh, I missed D5.
D5 and queen f6. But he's been missing games. He's been missing things all day.
Yep.
I mean, this has just not been Sergey's best.
Not at all.
And now it's over.
Bishop F7 comes, I guess. Or Queen
Or
F7.
queen.
But then Queen. Oh,
No time. Oh, wait, he found a move.
that's
Keep it, but it's mate anyway. Trade queens, get a queen yourself.
Yeah, get a queen first, even.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you mate on e3. Or you start the mating attack on e3.
you won on time. It's over. I mean, 3-game lead. 3-game lead.
It's happening. The upset heard round the chess world.
Yep. And
I'm shocked about the lack of emotes here. There we go. As if they heard my cry. Where is the Duda spam?
you're so ridiculous.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I forgive you. Don't worry. This is great.
This is just absolutely crazy.
Danny, when you had me describe Duda at the beginning of the match, and I understood that he was a relative unknown for more casual chess fans. For people who are, pretty significant chess fans, of course they know who Jan-Krzysztof Duda is. He's a phenomenal player, 2740, the #1 Polish player over Wojtaszek. He's number 23, 25 in the world. I forget the exact number. And I follow chess extremely closely. I've seen his success in Dortmund. I've seen his success in the Polish Championship. He's beaten Wojtaszek multiple times in recent months. And that's the cool thing about chess.
And how old is Duda again?
20.
So in comparison, he's 3 years younger than...
Than whom?
Oh, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I mean, I was thinking MBL. And Maxime's 23, right?
No, Maxime's way older than that. Come on.
Yeah. No, but anyway, yeah, he's ridiculously young, given his potential here. And, of course, got to give credit where credit's due. My boy Pete, events coordinator, who normally spends his time obsessing over Leela, is currently obsessing over Jan-Krzysztof Duda and reminding me that it was his idea to make sure that Duda got an invite to this year's SCC. So,
Karjakin finding a nice tactic that would be great in a classical game where it's just these two players playing, but when you're down so much time,
just not enough. I just never thought we would have been in this situation saying that not enough for Karjakin to get back. Run out of time.
Yeah, and there goes the wambulance.
Yep.
But
somebody call the wambulance if you're rooting for Karjakin here.
He needs it. Yeah, this is a nice game, honestly, by him. One of his better games, but one win is not enough to fend off Duda because there's a minute and a half left. So even
especially because if Black's going to win this game, it's going to take the rest of the time on the match clock. It's over.
Yep.
Oh man, unbelievable! Already excited. Don't even know what questions to ask in the chat, but wow. People laughing at my age issues there, but if I claim I'm 17, I clearly look like I'm 45, right? So got those dad years on me.
Better dad years than dad beers, am I right?
Better than dad.
You got nothing.
I got nothing because this match has been just crazy. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. We've lost about 1,000 of you in the last few minutes because you're like, well, I saw the biggest upset. I don't need to stick around for the interviews, but you're wrong. Interviews are coming, and with it, questions will be asked.
Yeah, just...
First time ever the underdog is moving on in crazy dramatic fashion. The opposite of what we saw in last week's match where tied into bullet, we had a runaway train. This has been close down to the wire, but the underdog moves on, and that's it. This game still counts as far as the overall score, but the match is over. Jan-Krzysztof Duda will be taking on. I don't even know yet. We'll check on the bracket in a minute. But wowzers.
Yeah, a very impressive match by him. So we'll, can't wait to talk about the players. We got to ask about the white color because it seemed like they were just trading off wins with white forever.
Yep.
How many total draws do they have? 2? I think 2.
Yeah, not many at all. And Jan-Krzysztof Duda will be moving on to face Sasha Grishuk in the next round of the Speed Chess Championship. We are going to do our best to conduct these interviews, given the technical issues we've had throughout the day. But what's amazing is that drama exists, and that's what matters. We are joined here by Jan-Krzysztof, as well as Sergey Karjakin. Can you both hear us?
Yes, I can.
Well, an amazing match. I think I speak for Robert when I say this was the most exciting match we've had all year. Only the second time ever in Speed Chess Championship history that a match has been tied headed into bullet. And obviously, Sergey, I know this isn't what you wanted to hear and not your favorite result of the day, but the biggest upset we've ever had and the underdog moving on. Sergey, it didn't seem like you just had your best chess today. Did you find yourself struggling under time pressure more than you normally do? And maybe share a little bit about what went wrong here today against Jan-Krzysztof.
Well, I think I played quite badly. I made so many blunders. Very stupid blunders, and so I was blundering rook and some other things in the winning positions. Sometimes not in the winning, but just in a normal positions, and so it was hard to keep playing, and actually I understood very very quickly after game 2 that I'm in a very bad form, but I was trying my best, but also I must admit that my mouse was very slow, and because I'm not at home, it was a bit complicated to play. But of course, I lost not because of the mouse, but because I just made too many blunders.
You said you're traveling, right? Visiting your parents, and so you're not at home in your normal setup. It did seem that way. I mean, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it did seem that there were some time scrambles where you were struggling more than you would. But do you feel like psychologically it was just hard to recover without a break after that game where you played Rook A1 and blundered the Rook? Was there a tipping point at some point where you just felt frustrated about beating yourself?
Yes. I was shocked, but okay. I mean, I tried to keep it going, and maybe I should have played some more serious chess. And at some point, I wanted to get fun, to get some creative chess to play, but maybe I should have played more seriously. I mean, just to try to show the best result. I mean, I don't say that I was not trying, but maybe some more serious openings or something.
Well, on that note, let's transition to you, Jan-Krzysztof. Congratulations. You shocked the world with this one. You played phenomenal chess. And what was your approach in the opening? You seemed like you were prepared to play mainline weapons whenever given the opportunity to, and really had it going today. Tell us a little bit about how you felt. Did you feel that practicing this week helped you to feel comfortable in the format? And what are your thoughts, and what do you attribute the victory today to?
Well, I think I played this 5+1 very poorly because, I have many time problems, and in general it could be better. But watching last match, Vidit Andreasen, I've seen that bullet is very important, and I thought that if I would play bullet more, then I will have some chances. Well, okay. I think that this betting was crucial because I think I was winning practically every game, but this last one, actually I didn't know much theory. Okay, I played Rook F1 in my career, but well, I decided to enter in this endgame because looking at these positions after d3, I couldn't find anything, and decided it's just better to step into my theory. In the beginning, I was very stressed, but then, okay, I won this by luck the second game and realized that, okay, luck is also part of the game, especially in online chess.
Jan-Krzysztof, it seemed like you and Sergey were switching off victories with the white pieces. I mean, you guys won, I think, like 12 games in a row, all with white. Did that play a factor in you switching your opening to the French? Because that was something that caught us by surprise.
Yes, actually, I wanted to play this exact position after c4, b4, queen a6. In the first game, I played bishop b4 by accident because I wanted to play knight f6, of course. Got quickly into unfamiliar territory, but well, actually, I played this French in classical games, so yeah. Okay. Also, this Rubinstein, Nimcovich, Sicilian. Okay, I think it's interesting to play. Quite not so much theory and playbook positions, but I was scoring poorly in this opening, so I switched to French. Actually. Actually, I focus on my chess mostly. The shorter the time was, then I have less time to think and just to play chess. That's why I think this 5+1 was very poor. I played this poorly. Then after the bullet and 3+1 the blitz, I just played. In the first game I forgot probably that there was 3+1 because I started to fight for a very, very long time in this end game, in this Berlin, but I was lucky to win this because.
For those who, Jan-Krzysztof could hear me. I apologize to the Twitch chat. I asked him. He told me before the match that he was nervous, and he said that obviously you heard his answer as the time controls got faster and he played quicker and the nerve shook off and trusted his intuition. He did even better. So sorry about that. But my question was about his nerves that he admitted to me before the match. So, Robert, I don't have any other questions besides a big thank you to Sergey Karjakin and Jan-Krzysztof for bringing us the most exciting match we've had so far. Again, an incredible finish. I know, Sergey, it wasn't your favorite result, but obviously you both delivered for the fans. We had donations to your prize fund throughout the day because of some of the brilliant moves you guys played, and just a huge thank you and a huge congratulations to you, Jan-Krzysztof. So before you go, I have to ask you, what do you need to do to repeat this success you've had today against Sergey's fellow countryman and Olympiad teammate, Alexander Grishuk is who you'll be taking on in the next round. What are your thoughts on what you need to do in that match to have another victory over another former World Blitz champion?
I will try to do my best, of course. Well, I think that in my case it's best not to think too much and just to play chess by heart, by feelings, And well, I know that Sasha is very good in Blitz, especially, but we haven't played any classical game, so I don't know him exactly. But I mean,
but you'll have fun and do your best.
Yeah,
I feel like you're giving an inspirational speech. Follow your heart and let the chess be your best. Right there, you go.
Yeah, yes. That's the point.
Well, thank you both, Sergey. Again, thank you so much for joining us, even while on vacation, visiting your parents. We appreciate it. Thank you to Jan-Krzysztof, and we wish to have both of you back next year. And Jan-Krzysztof, we will see you in the next round.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Well, Robert, just me and you now. We're looking at the bracket, and the rest of the fans get to predict along with us. We've got every second round matchup set besides the one that we'll see tomorrow with Anish Giri versus Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. I cannot wait for that. But I'm just mind blown right now. Blown away. Final thoughts.
Danny, I'm just going to say it one more time because I've been saying it all match. I said it before the match to our statisticians, our prognosticators. I have tremendous respect for Jan-Krzysztof Duda's play. I've seen him many of his games in, especially in recent months, but, in the last couple of years. He is a tremendous talent. I didn't think he was the big underdog that many purported him to be. And I liked his answer at the end. He sounded like he should be in a Nike commercial because his thought was essentially just do it. And, we'll see how he fares against Alexander Grishuk. I know before that, I'm super excited for the matchup tomorrow between Anish Giri and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. I see Mamedyarov as the 13 seed playing the 4, but I think that Mamedyarov is the heavy favorite, and the seeding is misleading.
Well, that rhymed, so good job on that. I'm going to disagree with you and say that I think Anish Giri has a lot more experience on our server and is hungry after barely losing last year to Wesley So, and I'm going to take Anish Giri, so should be fun tomorrow. We will see all of you tomorrow. Make sure you clear your Friday plans. It's not that big of a deal to call in sick and make sure you're here. Your boss would totally understand. Robert, thank you for flying alongside me here, and thank you everyone for being here. We will see you tomorrow, bright and early, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and whatever time that is, and wherever you may be across the world. Good night, everybody.